Your jaw tightens before you even notice. A familiar sting lands in your chest, like static under the skin. The voice arrives on cue, cool and certain. You blew it. You always do. The room is the same, the light is the same, but inside the weather turns. Your stomach dips. Your shoulders inch up. You hear your name in a message preview, and the voice adds a second punchline. They're going to find out. Sound familiar? Here's the truth you've suspected, but never fully trusted. That voice is not your enemy, and it's not the truth. It's an overprotective alarm, miscalibrated by old moments, amplified by a brain wired to spot threats. In the next hour, you'll learn how to pick up the mic from that inner critic, tune the settings on your reticular activating system, and rewrite the script in real time. Not with cheesy affirmations, but with precise coaching language that recruits your prefrontal cortex, calms your amygdala, and builds identity from choice, not noise. You will practice, feel the change in your breath, and hear a new tone in your head, clear, firm, and on your side. Start with one promise. You are not trying to kill the critic. You're retraining it into a coach. Your brain loves patterns. It will repeat whatever you rehearse. For years, you rehearsed a style of self-talk that kept you on edge. It was efficient in its own way. The amygdala was scanning for threats. The negativity bias was keeping tabs on what could go wrong, and every time something strung, your inner monologue put it on a loop. This is how vigilance becomes identity, but identity is programmable. Neuroplasticity isn't a seminar word. It's the literal growth and pruning of wiring. When you speak to yourself, you generate predictions, and predictions steer attention. Your reticular activating system decides what to let in, and it listens to the phrases you repeat. Say, "I'm an idiot" often enough, and your RAS highlights proof. Say here, "S what I'm learning," and it begins to surface cues that help you act like a learner. The shift is quiet at first, but it's measurable. Cooler hands, a steadier exhale, the sensation of space in your chest where tightness used to live. Use the cut method: catch, understand, talk. It's simple, fast, and ruthless in a kind way. You catch the inner line as if you were catching a glass mid-fall. You don't argue yet, you just hold it. Then you understand by labeling the function, not the content. Is this line trying to protect me from embarrassment, push me to perform, or punish me for falling short? Finally, you talk, but not like a cheerleader. You talk like a coach with a playbook. Coaching language pairs clarity with kindness and points to an action in the next 60 seconds. When the critic hisses, "You always mess this up," you reply with a coach swap. "I'm in a learning rep. One variable to adjust is pace. Slow first draft, then speed. Now breathe 4-4-6 to return oxygen to the thinking brain. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. Feel the drop in your shoulders. Notice the warmth spreading across your cheeks as blood returns." Say the lines softly again. "One variable to adjust is pace." That is not denial, it is design. In a fluorescent conference room, Maya felt the heat crawl up her neck. The team had spent 2 weeks on a client pitch, and the first slide looked crowded on the screen. Her manager cleared his throat. The old line arrived, "You're not ready for this." She felt her fingers go cold against the stainless bottle. She caught the line and wrote it at the top of a blank page so it could not run wild in the dark. Then she understood the function: protection from embarrassment. Good heart, bad tactic. She shifted to talk. What would a coach say? Pick one angle and lead with it. Then breathe. She drew a tiny square and boxed 3 words, one clear promise. During the meeting, when the client asked a tangential question, Maya used the coach swap she had rehearsed. "I can park that and return to the promise." Voice low, breath slow, she named the promise and moved on. Afterward, the manager called her presence steady. The critic didn't disappear, it was given a job. It became the sentry that alerts her to moments where clarity matters. In her body, the signature changed too. Instead of a clench in the gut, she felt a grounded heaviness in her legs, as if her feet had found better floor. Let's make it bodily for you now. Sit where you are, feel the chair under your thighs, unclench your jaw and place your tongue gently against the roof of your mouth. On the next exhale, imagine fog on a cold mirror, longer than the inhale. Repeat 3 cycles. The emotion that rides with your critic will peak and fall in about 90 seconds if you don't refeed it. That's the 90-second weather rule. During those 90 seconds, you aren't solving, you're watching. In your head say, I'm having the thought that I blew it. Notice the phrasing. You're not the thought, you're having it. Label the sensation. Pressure at temples, heat in the neck, tight band across the chest. Put your palm lightly over your sternum and feel the rise and fall. The simple act of naming and touching anchors you to the present sensory stream. The amygdala reads this as safety data. That buys your prefrontal cortex time to re-enter the room with options. When the room steadies, use the 3-seat theater. In your mind, you pull 3 chairs into a small semicircle. In the first chair sits the critic, arms crossed, worried and sharp. In the second sits the coach, alert and warm, sleeves rolled. In the third sits the observer, silent, spacious. You let the critic speak one line only, like a headline, not a monologue. Hear its usefulness. It wants standards, it wants safety. Thank it without sarcasm. Then ask the coach for one sentence that includes a verb and a time box. Try this template. Do X for Y minutes to honor Z value. For example, draft the opening paragraph for 3 minutes to honor clarity. Hold the sentence in your mental hand like a compass. Finally, sit in the observer's chair for a breath and remind yourself gently, you are the awareness, not the emotion. Stand up, do the action, and return. This tiny ritual rewires authority. The RAS hears verbs and values. It will amplify whatever helps you execute that sentence. Another piece of science, used like a tool, your brain's salience network toggles what feels important. Shame phrases inflate false importance. To deflate them, pair language with movement. This is the micro-reset walk. When a spiky thought lands, stand if you can. Take 10 slow steps, heel to toe, naming each footfall left, right, left. On step 5, whisper a precision reframe. Instead of I never follow through, say I'm training follow through in 5-minute sets. On step 7, specify the set you'll do. The act of walking cross-laterally nudges your brain into a more integrative mode. You feel the air on your forearms. You hear the tiny squeak in your shoes. Your eyes catch a shaft of light on the wall. Sensory detail is not aesthetic fluff. It is software update. It tells your nervous system that reality is broader than your thought. Then when you sit, the coach's tone fits your body's data, steadier, grounded, less dramatic, more precise. Now choose your first transformation phrase. It's called the RAS tuner. It must be believable, specific, and actionable. Pick a ritual you do daily, opening your laptop, brushing your teeth, locking your door, and attach the phrase to it. Each time you touch that trigger, you say the line once, out loud or in a whisper. Try this. Today I will speak to myself as a teammate and choose the smallest next play. When the trigger happens, pause your breath at the top of the inhale, deliver the line, and exhale slightly longer than the inhale. Your RAS begins to treat that phrase as a search term. During the day, it surfaces micro-opportunities to act like a teammate, not a tyrant. You notice the moment you would have said, "Come on, idiot," and you switch to try the first line and adjust. The difference is 1 degree, but compounding happens at 1 degree. 2 weeks in, the inner tone is familiar enough to feel like the voice you had been missing since you were 10. Let's meet you in a relationship moment. You send a text and watch the 3 dots appear, then vanish. The critic leaps. They're pulling away. You said the wrong thing. Your heart skitters. Temperature rises near the collar. The room tilts tighter. Cut. Catch the line. Understand. Function is anticipation control. It hurts less if you predict the hurt. Talk like a coach. Wait for data. Soothe the body. Hold your value. You place a hand at the base of your skull and breathe. You silently add a second sentence. I can be both caring and boundaried. The coach gives you a microplay. Write one kind, clear sentence you would send if they ask for space, and save it to drafts. You draft it quietly. The act gives your body a place to stand. The observer returns and you feel the back of the room again. When a reply finally arrives, you aren't detonated by punctuation. You can choose a reply that respects both people. The inner critic didn't vanish. It learned to serve. You may ask, won't gentle talk make me soft? That's the critic trying a new costume. Coaches are not soft, they are specific. They measure against values and adjust. The difference between whipping yourself and coaching yourself is the aftermath. Whipping narrows your field, makes your hands clumsy and your voice brittle. Coaching widens your field, keeps your breath under you and your voice low and clear. Test it. Think the harshest line you use on yourself and feel your shoulders. Then swap to the coach line and breathe. Feel the spread across your ribs. The data is in your body. Your performance improves when tension goes from panic tight to rope taut, enough to move, not enough to snap. This is not about getting rid of pressure. It is about channeling it. Here's a drill you can run today, quick and private. It's called the 1-minute bench. Set a timer for 60 seconds. Sit upright, feet flat, crown of the head gently lifted. On the inhale, say to yourself, in. On the exhale, say, here. The critic will try one line to distract you. When it does, smile without moving your lips and say, thanks, bench, not now. Resume in and here. When the timer goes off, pick one task you've been avoiding and run the coach's 2-step. Start the first 30 seconds, then check posture and pace. You are not aiming for a finished product. You are aiming for a felt shift in agency. The moment you hear yourself using verbs, you've moved from audience to author. Your mind is still a theater. You just took the director's chair. There will be days the critic arrives wearing a familiar face. A parent's worry, a teacher's skepticism, a boss's sigh. You don't need to argue with ghosts. You meet them with the same steps. Catch the line, understand the function, talk like a coach. Give the critic a job, scan for values violations, not personal defects. Ask it to alert you when you drift from integrity or kindness. Let it highlight moments to repair quickly. Now it becomes your ally in living the person you say you are. In your chest, the clamp loosens. In your neck, heat recedes. The light in the room looks a little warmer. You hear the hum of an appliance you had tuned out. That is presence. That is the platform for every other change you want to make. Before we close this first chapter, practice one more time. Think of a recent stumble, see it for 2 seconds, then step back. Say, I'm having the thought that I blew it, and the body feeling is heaviness in the sternum. Place a hand there, breathe 4-4-6. Ask the critic for a single headline. Say thank you. Ask the coach for one sentence with a verb and a time box tied to a value. Speak it softly. Stand, take 10 slow steps, and begin. Then whisper the identity cue once more, not as a mantra, but as a note to the nervous system. You are the awareness, not the emotion. The voice in your head is changing register. Soon, when you need it most, it will sound like someone who loves you and expects you to rise. You wake with an old sentence already waiting by the bed. It climbs into your mouth before your feet touch the floor. You're behind. The clock face glows too bright. Your throat feels cotton dry. The sentence drags your gaze to every unfinished thing in the room, and the day shrinks before it begins. You don't fight the sentence. You step into the doorway of awareness and study it like weather moving across a field. Behind is a feeling, not a fact. You place one hand over your belly and let the first inhale drop there. 4 counts in, 4 hold, 6 out. That longer exhale is a lever. It tells your vagus nerve to ease the alarm. As you breathe, you introduce a new framework, the language ladder. It has 4 rungs: judgment, description, direction, decision. Each sentence you think belongs on one rung. The higher you climb, the more your brain can help you. You try it. I'm so behind, lives on judgment. You climb to description. I have 3 key tasks and 90 minutes. You climb to direction. Start with a 5-minute outline of task 1. You climb to decision. Start now. You say the last sentence out loud softly, and you feel your neck uncoil a degree. This is not semantics. It's neural traffic control. Judgment sentences trigger global alarms and narrow attention to the self as problem. Description sentences move blood flow toward the prefrontal cortex by pointing to specifics, time, number, steps. Direction sentences engage the brain's motor planning. Decision sentences close the loop, releasing dopamine in small, honest amounts. You don't have to believe you're capable of everything. You only have to decide one clean action. That's how a coach talks. It's how you recruit your reticular activating system to sort for cues that serve, instead of proof you're a mess. While you rinse your face, cold water on warm skin, you give the RAS a morning bookmark. Today I climb the language ladder when my critic speaks. It's a quiet oath, the kind that sticks. At lunch, your colleague Tyler presents a draft document and asks for thoughts. Your inner critic jumps in with a hot take, not about the work but about you. Say something smart or they'll think you don't belong here. Heat rises behind your ears. Your shoulders creep up. You catch the line. You understand the function, status protection. You walk yourself through a second framework called signal then script. First, signal to the body that you are safe. Without moving much, lower your gaze, soften the muscles around your eyes, and place the tip of your tongue lightly on the roof of your mouth. 1 breath 4-4-6. Then script 1 sentence that begins with what's working, names 1 lever, and ends with a next step. You say, what's working is the clarity of the intro. 1 lever is trimming the middle examples so the main argument pops. I propose we cut examples 2 and 4 and test how it reads. You watch Tyler's shoulders drop in relief. The room's temperature seems to settle. Your critic got to keep its value, care about excellence, without stealing the mic. To prove the difference to yourself, you run a micro drill called the A-B whisper. You whisper the critic line, then the coach version, and listen to your body's data. Say something smart or they'll think you don't belong here. Your chest tightens, jaw clicks. Offer 1 true improvement and a next step. Your breath lengthens. The data is not mystical. It's proprioception, interoception, the ancient language your nervous system speaks fluently. Use it as feedback, not verdict. Stand near the window and let the light warm your cheeks. Hear the thin buzz of the overhead light. The world is wider than the thought. In the evening, a different arena. Your sister calls, frazzled about a family plan. Old dynamics pull you toward a script where you fix everything and then resent everyone. The critic throws a barbed hook. If you don't step up, you're selfish. The hook aims for your identity, so you meet it with identity tools. Welcome to the values checkpoint. You name 2 values, care and sovereignty. You say, I can care and keep boundaries. Then you run the boundaried bridge sentence. I want to help and I'll need to keep it to X. X could be time, money, emotional energy. You say it softly, breath steady, voice low. I want to help and I can join for the planning call, but I won't lead logistics this time. The critic bristles, then quiets. It wanted you to belong. The coach helps you belong to yourself while you belong to others. Your sister exhales, you hear a smile in her tone. Your lower back releases the knot you had stopped noticing. You feel your feet in your socks again, an odd but unmistakable sign that you re-entered your body. Let's deepen the craft with the Critic to Coach converter. It's a three-step transmutation. Name the pattern, narrow the scope, nail the verb. Name the pattern, catastrophizing about the meeting or all or nothing about the gym. Narrow the scope, just Tuesday's meeting, just 20 minutes of movement. Nail the verb, pick one simple present tense action. Draft, ask, stretch, send. The converter shifts you from character attacks to choice points. Your RAS hears the verb and starts surfacing cues to complete it. You discover emails that already contain the answer. You notice your shoes by the door. It feels like luck. It's attention aligned. You try it the next morning with exercise. The critic proposes the usual trap. If you can't do an hour, skip it. You catch the pattern, all or nothing. You narrow the scope just this morning. You nail the verb stretch. You lay on the floor and stretch calves, then hips. Carpet warm under your back. Quiet tick of a clock you never hear at other times. The voice tries again, this won't matter. You coach back, compounding is the math of identity. Today I cast my vote. You rise with less drama and more blood in your face. That glow isn't pride. It's circulation telling your brain you are moving toward health, so it may as well help. There's a story you've carried about feedback, that it proves your fear right, that you're deficient. We're going to rewrite that story by rehearsing a ritual called the 3-breath feedback frame. Before you open the document or hit play on the voicemail, you take 3 breaths with 3 phrases. Breath 1, I am the awareness, not the emotion. Breath 2, extract the instruction, discard the insult. Breath 3, one tweak, one test. Then you read or listen. You underline one instruction hidden inside the tone. You ignore the adjectives. You pick one tweak and decide a test. Last week, Jordan, a barista finishing a design degree at night, received a professor's email that began with, "Frankly, this misses the mark." Old Jordan would have spiraled for hours. New Jordan ran the frame, found the instruction, define hierarchy before color play, and tested a grayscale wireframe. The next day, the professor wrote, "Stronger, keep going." In Jordan's body reported the shift. Heat left the face, breath evened, hands steadied on the trackpad. Feedback became fuel, not fire. Sometimes the inner critic speaks in second-hand quotes. A coach from years ago, a parent with their own ghosts, a partner on a bad day. The quotes feel heavy because they carry echoes. You'll use a method called quote disenchantment. You speak the line verbatim in a neutral tone, no mocking, no reverence. You'll never be a closer. Then you add 2 true sentences. First, the date stamp. That line was spoken in 2016 by someone under pressure. Second, the data stamp. Since then, I have closed 6 projects and learned a repeatable prep routine. Your nervous system reads dates and data as reality anchors. The spell weakens. You feel the air temperature on your forearms. You notice a faint whir of your laptop fan. The room returns. You are the one who chooses which sentences belong in your operating system. Let's bring in brain science again, quickly and practically. The amygdala's job is rapid threat detection. It does not do nuance. The prefrontal cortex does, but only when there's enough oxygen and no blaring alarms. Harsh self-talk keeps the siren on. Kind, specific self-talk lowers the volume so nuance can enter. Meanwhile, your anterior cingulate, the attention bridge, helps you shift sets. When you speak verbs tied to values, ask, draft, repair, you strengthen that bridge. This isn't abstract, it's the felt ability to pivot mid-sentence from panic to plan. You'll train it with a micro-practice called the 10-second pivot. When you catch a spike, you count a slow 3 while exhaling, then say, plan the smallest next move. and name it in 7 seconds or less. 10 seconds total. You don't have to believe the plan is perfect. You only have to move attention across the bridge. Your chest will feel less like a locked drawer and more like a sliding door on oiled rails. A friend invites you to a party where an ex might be present. The critic starts storyboarding disaster. You activate the boundary beacon, a pocket phrase that protects you without making anyone the villain. I'm going to swing by for an hour and keep it light. In the mirror, you practice a half smile that keeps your jaw loose. You notice the texture of your shirt against your skin, the coolness of your earlobes, the soft thud of your heartbeat. At the party, when your ex laughs too loudly behind you, the critic offers color commentary. You answer with the A-B whisper. Critic, don't turn around or you'll look desperate. Coach, say hello once, then return to your people. You do, the earth doesn't split. A tiny thread of pride hums under your sternum, not the loud kind, the quiet kind that sticks. Now we calibrate your inner language for endurance. Meet the end-of-day exchange. Before sleep, you trade one critic sentence for 3 coach sentences that belong on each of the top rungs of the language ladder. You lie on your side, pillow cool, and recall the sentence that strung today. I wasted the morning. You climb. Description. I spent 40 minutes doom scrolling and 20 minutes resetting. Direction. Tomorrow, phone stays in the kitchen, laptop opens to the outline. Decision, set the phone on the counter now. You pad to the kitchen, place the phone, feel tile cool beneath your feet, hear the soft click as the charging cable connects. Back in bed, you feel the mattress cradle your shoulder and your breath spreads low. The critic doesn't vanish. It yields the floor when you give your brain better sentences to serve. One more story to etch the lesson. During a quarterly review, Lena, a project lead who carries a catalog of self-critique like a library, was told her team adored her but needed clearer deadlines. The critic sprinted to an old podium. They like me because I over-accommodate. If I get firm, they'll turn. She felt her throat get tight, palms damp. She ran signal then script in the room, softening her gaze, lengthening her exhale. She climbed the language ladder aloud. Description, 2 projects slipped timelines by a week. Direction, single weekly deadline doc. Decision, I'll send the first version tonight. The director nodded. After the meeting, Lena walked to the stairwell, placed a hand on the rail, and took the 10-second pivot. When she returned to her desk, she wrote the doc in 15 calm minutes. That evening, she noticed a steady warmth in her hands while chopping vegetables, a domestic proof that her nervous system had registered the upgrade. We end this chapter with a practice that cements identity, the coach's name. You give your inner coach an actual name and tone, not a superhero, a mentor you trust. Maybe it's Steady Sam or Captain Quiet. You write a single sentence creed for them. Steady Sam speaks verbs, honors values, and never uses shame. Each morning for 7 days, you greet them at the mirror out loud. Morning, Steady Sam. Your brain loves characters. It stores them efficiently. Soon, when you hear the critic, you will also hear Sam clearing his throat gently. You will feel the tiniest smile tug at your cheekbones. You will remember the way your shoulders sink when you exhale just a beat longer. You will remember that you are not the storm. You are the sky that chooses which weather to keep. Before you sleep tonight, run the end-of-day exchange. Whisper, I am the awareness, not the emotion. Then climb 1 rung higher with each breath. Description, direction, decision. Let your tongue rest, your jaw fall, your eyelids grow heavy. Outside, a car passes, tires hissing on asphalt. Inside, your chest rises like a small tide and falls like a safe shore. The voice that used to cut now coaches. The day closes with you on your own side. Morning light breaks unevenly across your kitchen counter. You're pouring coffee and the mind spins a familiar reel. You should be further along by now. The sentence lands with the subtlety of a hammer. It isn't even dramatic anymore, just a background hum that stains everything the same gray. You stand still and let the steam curl up your face. This is where you begin to do something most people never attempt. You trace the loop, not just the line. Enter the loop trace. Every sticky critic sentence lives inside a loop of trigger, body signal, prediction, and protective behavior. The prediction was always meant to save you time. If I pre-criticize, I won't be blindsided. Today, you become a cartographer of that loop. You say out loud, slow enough to hear your own voice, trigger, scrolling other people's wins, body signal, tightness under breastbone, prediction, if I'm behind, I'm unsafe, protective behavior, delay starting so I don't confirm the fear. Even as you name it, you feel a soft widening in the rib cage, as if someone cracked a window. Naming dissolves haze. With haze gone, you can choose. Tie the loop trace to a second tool called the choice needle. A needle points north no matter how you turn it. Your choice needle points to a single value you'll honor for the next hour. Pick one: craft, courage, care, clarity. You pick craft. Your coach sentence becomes, honor craft for 12 minutes on one task. 12 is small on purpose. Your brain mistakes gigantic goals for danger, but nods at a short apprenticeship. You place your phone face down, set a timer, and feel the cool ceramic of the mug in your palm. The critic tries again. 12 minutes won't change your life. You answer with the needle. 12 minutes trains are north. And you begin. The words you write aren't transcendent, they're honest. The clock ticks. Your shoulders slide down half an inch and your scalp loosens where it clung. When the timer ends, you stand taller by a millimeter. That is not nothing. That is a new coordinate. At work, the weekly stand-up arrives. You hear a teammate speed through wins with movie trailer confidence, and your inner narrator pulls out the oldest mirror. Compared to them, you're small. Heat blooms at the base of your neck. Your hands cool. You run a protocol called compare to compass. Comparison aims your attention at another person's performance. A compass returns it to your path. The protocol has two questions. 1. What is the path I chose for this season? 2. What is the next faithful step on that path? Seasons matter, they decide metrics. Maybe this is your skill season, not your spotlight season. You say in your head without apology, path become technically sharper. Next faithful step, ship the refactor by Friday. Your chest untangles. When it's your turn, you report simply, voice low, refactor in progress. I'll have a testable slice by Thursday. No fireworks, just direction. After the meeting, your manager sends a quiet thumbs up. The critic looks around for something to scold, and finding none, sighs and sits. We press into science long enough to steal leverage. The brain's predictive coding means it guesses what the world is before it checks. Harsh self-talk is a prediction engine trained on old weather. It guesses failure to avoid shock. You can't convince it out of guessing, but you can retrain what it guesses for. That's where the RAS bookmark comes in. A bookmark trains your attention to look for a theme. Today's theme is evidence of micro-honors, moments you honored a value in small ways. Each time one happens, you silently whisper bookmark. 3 times a day, you'll jot them in a corner of your notes. Honored craft, wrote for 12. Honored care, texted support without over-owning. Honored clarity, asked one better question. This is not corny gratitude, it is forensic. Your reticular activating system hears the repeated tag and begins surfacing more moments that match. By evening, the story tilts, not a movie montage, a recalibration of signal and noise. There's an email waiting from an old friend who wants to collaborate. Opportunity and dread arrive in the same envelope. The email is kind, your stomach still sours. The critic whispers a thesis. Say yes or they'll think you're difficult. Your past has taught your nervous system that belonging is earned by overextending. You bring in a framework called the two-room test. In your mind, you stand in a hallway. On the left is the room of reaction. Lights too bright, air too thin, everyone asking for something now. On the right is the room of intention. Warm lamp, a chair that fits, a small table with a pen. Before you answer, you step into the right-hand room. You actually feel your sternum soften and your throat widen like a scarf loosening. In that room, you answer 3 sentences. What do I want to learn? What do I have to give? What keeps me honest? You scroll the answers in your notebook. Learn deeper project management. Give design eye, honest, no weekends. Now you draft a reply that coaches both of you. I'm excited about the idea. I can contribute design and timeline structure. To do it well, I keep weekends off. If that works, let's outline roles by Friday. You read it once. The critic mutters that it sounds stiff. Your body says it's clear. You send it anyway. The world does not end. It rarely does when you speak from the right room. Your inner language needs texture to endure. The brain habituates to repeated sentences, even good ones, unless you vary sensory anchors. Introduce the sensory tether. Pick a phrase and pair it with a sense. Today, pair your choice needle with temperature. Each time you speak your north, craft, courage, care, clarity, you also notice a temperature, cool air on forearms, warm mug, slight heat behind the knees after standing. The pairing stamps the phrase deeper because the hippocampus loves context. Later, when the critic hisses during a meeting, you can recall warmth on the mug and re-enter the coached state. This is not superstition, it's conditioning. Let's bring in a story that could have been yours. Kadim, a junior developer who never said no to extra tickets, found himself working late 3 nights a week. He wore exhaustion like a medal and secretly resented the team. His critic had one line: if you ask for help, you prove you're weak. After a sprint retro where his manager praised hustle, Kadim nearly broke. He tried the two-room test in the stairwell where the building always smells faintly like lemon cleaner. In the room of intention, he wrote, learn clean architecture, give reliable unit tests, honest, ask for pair programming twice a week. He ran a micro drill called the Ask Anchor. It's simple, write a request with one value word, one concrete ask, one-time box. He typed, to honor reliability, I'd like to pair on the payment module for 45 minutes tomorrow. If that works, I'll own writing the first pass and tests. His manager replied yes in 7 minutes. Kadim's body data, cool hands warming, jaw unclenching, told the real story. The critic lost a job it never liked and got a better one, spotting moments to prepare. By afternoon, you catch a new loop, rumination masquerading as diligence. You replay a conversation with your boss, editing your lines, searching for flaws as if you could retroactively earn safety. It feels like work. It's not. You deploy the 90-second weather rule again, but with an upgrade called the rehearsal redirect. You set a 90-second timer and let the weather run through without feeding it. At the beep, you redirect rehearsal toward one future sentence you might actually say, next time I'll open with the constraint. You whisper it once, slow. You imagine the room, the air conditioner's hiss, the feeling of your shoes on carpet. You stop. Rumination starves when you replace it with rehearsal you can use. Your breath evens. Your back stops trying to hold the ceiling up. Now you meet the language pattern that sneaks past your gates. Pseudo-honesty. It sounds grounded. Let S be real. Some people are built for this and I'm not. The critic loves this because it masquerades as humility while building a cage. You counter with a framework called Real plus Resource. Real acknowledges what's true now without making it a trait. Resource names what you can use. Real, I'm slower at cold starts. Resource, templates help me begin. You don't argue with the first clause, you simply refuse to let it be the only clause. Then you practice a micro-action called the 2-minute template. You keep a small library of beginnings in a notes doc. When you hit a cold start, you copy a template, fill 3 blanks, and go. Your identity shifts from not built for this to methodical starter. That shift is visceral. You notice a softness under the collarbones that wasn't there before. Your mind stops sprinting loops and starts looking for boxes to check that actually matter. The afternoon dips, blood sugar drops. The critic gets chatty when you're hungry. You preempt it with the 3-switch reset, light, air, posture. You brighten the light by opening a curtain. You get air by cracking a window. You change posture by standing for 2 minutes. While you stand, you run the A-B whisper again on a stubborn line. You're too late to become who you wanted. Then the coach, begin again at 3:17 p.m. Your future self only needs a steady 15. The time stamp matters. It makes the instruction real. You set a 15-minute timer. The first 90 seconds feel like swimming upstream. Then the current turns an inch. That inch is your proof. You deserve a practice that rewrites your inner tone at deeper layers. It's called the archive edit. Tonight, you'll pull an old journal or document where your critic wrote the loudest. You won't erase a word. You'll annotate with a coach's pen in the margins. The key is to use 3 kinds of margin notes. First, function, what the line was trying to do then. Second, upgrade, 1 sentence you de-offer now. Third, value badge, the value the old you was reaching for. You might see function, prevent humiliation. Upgrade, ask for scope before saying yes. Value badge, dignity. As you mark, you feel a tender pressure behind the eyes. The point is not pity. The point is continuity. The critic once got you here. The coach will take you farther. A confession hides in many of us. The voice gets cruelest in the mirror. You catch your reflection brushing your teeth and the critic strikes fast. Look at those lines. Time's not kind to you. You deploy the mirror move. It has 3 steps performed in 20 seconds. Step 1, soften the gaze, release the micro squint. Step 2, tilt your head as if you were listening to a loved one. Step 3, deliver 1 sentence without adjective or negation, only verb and value. Rest early to honor energy. You finish brushing, you turn off the light. Your nervous system logs the moment as safety. The critic hates that. It cannot argue with verb and value. It can only hiss adjectives. You stop buying adjectives. Bring your attention to relationships again, because that's where the inner voice often misbehaves. You text a partner and they answer late. The critic writes a novel in seconds. Instead of reading it, you run a compact framework called the trust triangle. It asks 3 questions in order. Are they safe? Are they trying? Are we aligned right now? If you can answer yes to the first 2, you treat the third as a calibration problem, not a catastrophe. You send a coach sentence that carries both care and clarity. Hey, when texts go unanswered for hours, my brain fills in noise. Would you be open to letting me know if you'll be offline? I'll do the same. The text is not poetry. It's a maintenance script for the relationship. The reply comes with an apology and a plan. Your rib cage lifts a notch, and the tilt in the room straightens. We return to the body because it is the stage on which your inner dialogue plays. Sit or stand and try the 4 corners breath. Imagine your breath tracing a rectangle. Inhale up one side for 4, hold across the top for 4, exhale down the other side for 6, rest along the bottom for 2. With each pass, think 1 sentence of the critic to coach converter. First pass, name the pattern, catastrophizing about timelines. Second pass, narrow the scope, just Thursday's deliverable. Third pass, nail the verb, draft. Fourth pass, value tie, honor clarity. After 4 rectangles, your shoulders feel further from your ears by an inch you can't measure but can sense. The room sounds more layered. a neighbor's laugh through the wall, a distant motorcycle, your own breath like light surf. You say the quiet identity sentence that keeps orienting you. You are the awareness, not the emotion. The breath traces another rectangle. The critic stands in the corner of the stage and realizes you've changed directors. Here's a final scene to imprint the day. You've been avoiding a phone call to repair a small harm. You missed a deadline and left someone hanging. The critic paces and frames the options as humiliation or avoidance. You invoke a tiny ritual called the repair rail. It's a single-sentence formula built to run on rails instead of vibes. I did X. Here's the impact I see. Here's my repair. Can we agree on why going forward? You dial. Your hand is warm now, not icy. The person answers. You deliver your line, voice even, breath anchored low. There is a pause, then a relieved, thanks for owning it. You agree on a small new rail. When the call ends, the air tastes different, cleaner, like after rain. The inner critic, strangely, is quiet. It wanted integrity. It got it. You stand at the sink, run water over your fingers, and feel thrilled by something that has no name other than groan. Tonight, before bed, you'll run the end-of-day exchange again, but add one last flourish, the whisper forward. After description, direction, and decision, whisper one sentence to tomorrow's you as if you were handing them a baton. You'll wake at 7:10, breathe once, honor clarity for 12 minutes on the outline, place the paper on your desk, lay your hand on it for a breath, turn off the light. The room darkens to a soft charcoal. Your body discovers its weight in the mattress again. The voice that once cut now builds. Across your chest, the tide rises and falls. And as sleep takes you, a quiet certainty grows roots. Your inner talk has changed loyalty. It serves your becoming. You sit with your laptop open and an empty document blinking like a small dare. The inner critic taps its pen against the desk. If this isn't brilliant by paragraph 2, you should stop. You feel a thin band tighten around your temples. Your eyes jump to the time in the corner of the screen, and your tongue sticks to the roof of your mouth. This is the perfect moment to install a metronome for your inner voice, the coach cadence. Cadence means you don't let the critic set tempo by panic. You set tempo by sequence, start, steady, sharpen, ship. You whisper it like a drummer counting in. Start is 30 seconds of movement, anything honest. Steady is 3 minutes at an easy pace. Sharpen is 2 minutes to improve one thing. Ship is a single small handoff, save, send, or schedule. As you begin, the critic drags its feet, but cadence does not argue, it breathes for you. 30 seconds in, your shoulders lower. 3 minutes in, you feel warmth in the palms. By sharpen, you snip one long sentence into 2, and something unclenches in the back of your jaw. Ship, you set a 5-minute block on tomorrow's calendar. The voice that wanted fireworks notices you're building a road. Here's a second framework to protect that road from potholes. The red pen/blue pen. The critic gets the red pen by habit. It loves to circle flaws. The coach uses a blue pen that circles what's working and how to build on it. For the next hour, you practice blue first. Before you touch any red mark, you put one blue circle around a sentence that carries your intent. You say out loud, keep this tone. The neuroscience is simple. Blue widens attention and invites your prefrontal cortex to solve. Red alone narrows and triggers self-threat. When you do use the red pen, you pair it with a coach question. What's the smallest change that improves this? The language switches from judgment to curiosity. Your breath changes with it. On the next inhale, you feel air moving low, expanding your ribs instead of fluttering at your collarbones. The cursor blinks without menace. It's a metronome again. You're keeping time. Mid-morning, a Slack message pings from your director. Can we tighten the narrative for the briefing? Your stomach dips. The critic uses a favorite blade. If they were truly confident in you, they wouldn't ask. You pause and run the 2-minute boardroom. You imagine stepping into a room in your mind with a long mahogany table and tall windows. On the left sits the critic in a tight suit. On the right sits the coach, sleeves rolled. At the head sits the observer, you. The observer grants each of them one sentence. Critic, you need clear stakes. Coach, ask what the key decision is and shape the narrative to that. You feel the texture of the chair under your thighs, firm and smooth, and the gentle tick of a wall clock. Then you send one clarifying sentence. For the briefing, what's the decision we want in the room? The director replies, green light resources. You answer with your coach cadence, copy. I'll lead with cost of delay and present two options that make the decision easy. Your chest releases a notch, like a latch in a door unlocking. The boardroom dissolves, and you're back at your desk, but with a roomier rib cage. Because language habits run deep, you'll audit yours in the wild. This is the 5% language shift. You don't try to flip your entire inner monologue. You change one phrase for a week. You choose to replace I have to with I choose to or I'm choosing not to. It sounds small. It recalibrates agency. I have to answer email becomes I choose to clear 12 today. I have to go for a run becomes I'm choosing not to run tonight and I'll stretch for 6 minutes. The critic grumbles that you're playing with words. Your body knows better. When you say choose, your diaphragm moves with less hitch. It's the difference between being pushed and stepping. Step enough and you stop dragging your feet through your life. In the afternoon, you meet a snag that once would have derailed you. A coworker, Bree, flags a bug you missed and CCs the team. The critic fans out a smoky headline. Public mistake equals public proof you're not meticulous. Your ears heat. Your throat narrows. You run a protocol called OODA self-talk. Observe, orient, decide, act. Borrowed from fighter pilots and softened for the heart. Observe, bug surfaced in Module 2, reported at 2:13 p.m. Body feels heat in ears, tightness in throat. Orient, value is reliability, constraint is time, relationship with Bree is solid. Decide, thank name impact, propose fix window. Act, thanks for the catch, Bree. I see the failure path, it could affect 2 flows. I'll patch in the next 30 and post tests. You hit send, set a timer, and breathe 446 once. The heat fades from your ears like light leaving a room. 34 minutes later, you write, patched, tests added, here's the diff. Bree replies with a thumbs up and a nice turn. The critic doesn't get the stage long enough to deliver a monologue. Let's install a practice for edges. The moments right before you enter a situation that historically tilts you. Meet the threshold transcript. Just outside a door or before you click join meeting, you speak 2 sentences like you're writing a script for your brain to play. Sentence 1 names your stance. Sentence 2 names your first action. Stance, calm clarity. Action, open with the decision and 1 question. You say it at half volume, like stage directions. This is not pep talk. It's priming. Your reticular activating system hears the words calm and clarity and starts tuning for cues, breath, pace, a well-placed pause that match. As you step through the doorway, notice the slight cool draft on your forearms, the scent of coffee or whiteboard marker, the flicker of the fluorescent lights. Sensory data brackets your stance. The critic will knock, but you have a script. You're already walking to your mark. Story, because stories give spine to technique. On a humid Thursday, Eliza, an events coordinator with a perfectionist streak so sharp it left marks, prepared for a venue walkthrough with a new client known for abrupt feedback. The critic had its claws out. If they see you hesitate, they'll trust you less. Eliza's heart thudded too fast. Her fingertips went cold. In the stairwell, she ran the threshold transcript. Stance, steady hospitality. Action ask for their top must-have in the first minute. She walked in, felt the faint vibration of the building's AC through the floor and said, "Before we walk, what's the one non-negotiable for your guests?" The client blinked, then smiled. "Flow, no bottlenecks." Eliza sketched a path on her clipboard in 3 strokes, then pointed out how the new layout eliminated choke points. At the end, the client said, "That felt easy." Later, slicing an apple in her kitchen, Eliza noticed her shoulders were lower than usual, and her breath moved all the way down to her belly. She realized that steady hospitality wasn't just how she worked. It was who she could be on purpose. You need a tool to turn the critic's harshness into literal fuel. Use the shadow compliment. It's a simple alchemy. Extract the value hiding under the insult. You're so naive becomes you care enough to hope. Protect that by adding a check. Your messy becomes your prolific. Add a 10-minute tidy. Once you name the compliment, you bolt it to a verb. The body needs a verb to relax. Try it with one of your own barbs. You overthink everything. Compliment. You see layers. Verb. Summarize in 1 sentence. When you do it, feel what happens. A loosening around your temples, a warmth spreading across your upper back. The critic wanted to guard you by scaring you. You preserve the guard by giving it a better job. Because old lines dig deep grooves, you'll practice the transcript swap, taking one entire in a paragraph and rewriting it in coach voice without deleting the problem. The swap follows a rhythm: acknowledge, aim, act. Acknowledge, I'm anxious about the presentation. Aim, make it easy for them to decide. Act, draft slides that make the decision obvious. Write it on a sticky note and place it where your eyes will catch it. The RAS loves hunting matches. It will keep bringing the sticky back to your attention. You'll be tempted to write novel-length coach paragraphs. Resist. Keep it to 3 sentences. Your nervous system trusts brevity when it's tight and true. While you write, hear the soft scrape of pen on paper, feel the small drag of the sticky backing as you place it, notice the faint scent of ink. These micro-sensations stitch the words into memory. Evenings are often when the critic wants to hold court. You're tired, willpower is low. Install the coach's closing ritual so the critic doesn't get the last word. It's a 2-minute sequence. Wash, words, window. Wash your hands or face to mark the shift. Notice water temperature, the slickness of soap, the squeak of skin against porcelain. Words, speak 1 line of gratitude in the shadow, something good in something hard. The awkward talk made us clearer. Window, look out a window for 10 seconds and name 1 still thing and 1 moving thing. Still, lamppost, moving, leaves. Then whisper the identity cue. You are the awareness, not the emotion. This ritual is less about positivity and more about ownership. The critic feeds on ambiguity. You end the day with choice. Tougher terrain, when your inner talk fuses with shame, as if your whole self is the problem. This is where the 3-perspective reframe helps you breathe again. You tell your story from 3 plausible angles: positive, neutral, negative, and you pick the most useful, not the rosiest. Positive, I overreached because I care about impact. Neutral, I misestimated capacity, lesson recorded. Negative, I ignored signals. Then you ask, which angle moves me toward repair and learning? Often it's neutral. Your body likes neutral. It doesn't trigger the alarm, but it's not sugar. Speak the chosen angle once, then name your smallest repair. You'll feel a quieting in your gut, like the hum in the room lowering by a degree. You didn't forgive everything away. You gave your nervous system a stable floor to stand on while you fix things. When stakes feel personal, you can perform a micro-interview with the part of you that is terrified. It's called the 2-question interview. Ask inside, what are you afraid would happen if we fail? Listen, then ask, what do you need me to do to feel we're trying wisely? The answers will be oddly specific when you get them right. Afraid will be laughed at. Need one rehearsal in the actual room, 5 breaths before speaking. You write that down and schedule it. Suddenly, the power dynamic changes. The critic stops screaming because you put it on the calendar. You are leading. One more story to make it bone deep. On a rainy morning, Matteo, an early-stage founder with 2 employees and a calendar full of investor calls, stared at a spreadsheet until his eyes burned. The critic's thesis, if you stumble your pitch, you'll lose them forever. He ran the 2-question interview. Afraid, we'll sound scattered. Need one crisp tagline and a clear ask. He opened a notebook and ran the transcript swap. Acknowledge, I'm scared of sounding like a kid asking for allowance. Aim, clarity that respects their time. Act, lead with the problem in 1 sentence, then the ask. He stood in his kitchen, inhaled the dark roast rising from the mug, felt the floor cool beneath his bare feet and rehearsed. On the call, when an investor interrupted, he used OODA, observe the spike, orient to value, respect, decide to pause, act by saying, happy to answer that, quick headline, then numbers. The call ended with a polite no. Oddly, Matteo felt steady. Later, when he took the trash out, rain hitting his forearms in cool needles, he realized the critic had stopped narrating doom. It was waiting to be hired for something real. To close today, run the coach cadence on something small with intention. Start, steady, sharpen, ship. As you do, notice 3 sensory anchors. The sound of your breath through your nose like wind under a door, the way your shirt fabric moves across your shoulders when you roll them back, the faint metallic tang of a pen cap you forgot you were chewing. These aren't random. They're the string of a kite in gusty weather. They tether you to the ground you own while the mind practices new sky. Whisper the identity shift once more without drama. You are the awareness, not the emotion. Tomorrow the critic will still visit. Good. You're training it to knock, to enter with purpose, and to take a seat while the coach runs the play. The elevator doors close, and the small mirrored box reflects your face back at you. It's not unkind, just unfiltered. The critic takes the cue. You look tired. If you were really committed, you'd be more energized. The words arrive with an old ache between your shoulder blades. Your fingers twitch toward your phone. Pause. This is where you install a boundary for your inner dialogue that few people ever learn, the voice valet. A valet takes your keys and parks the car. The voice valet takes your critic's keys before it drives you into a ditch. You say under your breath, I'll hold that line for you. You picture placing the sentence on a small tray. The valet, your neutral awareness, walks it to a side table labeled Review at 7 p.m. Now the critic can't sprint laps around your brain while you're in transit. You rest your tongue on the roof of your mouth and ride one slow exhale. Your shoulders drop a centimeter. When the doors open, fluorescent light bleaches the hallway, and you feel steadier than you have any right to in this much light. At your desk, a cluster of messages demands attention. Your pulse bumps. The critic tries to snatch the keys back with a classic. If you don't answer instantly, you're unreliable. You open a notebook and run a practice called precision promise. The idea is simple. Your brain calms when you promise specifically and deliver visibly. You write 1 sentence you can honor in the next 15 minutes with a clear verb and scope. I'll triage the inbox for 15 and reply to the top 2 decisions. You set a timer. While you work, you glance at your watch face. Time glides instead of evaporates because you told it what to do. When the timer ends, you whisper, promise kept. You feel heat fade from your cheeks, replaced by a quiet glow in your forearms, as if the muscles had remembered how to be used without bracing. Your reticular activating system learns from 2 signals, a cue and a payoff. Precision promise supplies both. But the critic isn't done. It favors the afternoon when glucose dips and your edges fray. You prepare with the confidence ledger. A ledger is not a highlight reel. It's a record of tiny deposits that earn trust. Open to a fresh page and write today's date. Under it, capture 3 micro deposits in coach language. Kept a 15-minute triage promise. Asked 1 clarifying question before starting. Pause to breathe before replying to an edgy message. You can feel the cynic in you want to roll its eyes. That's fine. The ledger is for the part of your brain that does math. It counts votes. 10 days from now, when the critic insists you never follow through, you will point to lines you can physically touch. The hippocampus loves concrete proof. Fingers on paper beat abstract reassurances every time. As you write, notice the drag of the pen, the faint scent of ink, the way your breathing slows to match the strokes. A story to make this real. Ariana, an ICU nurse who learned to sprint for 12 hours and then collapse, carried a critic with a single thesis. If you soften, you'll drop a ball and someone will pay. During a brutal week, her charge nurse asked her to precept a new hire. The critic hissed, "You can't afford patience." Ariana felt the familiar squeeze behind her sternum and heat up her neck. In the med supply closet, she tried the voice valet for the first time. "I'll hold that line for you." Then she ran a precision promise. "For the next 10 minutes, I'll teach 1 handoff script and ask the new hire to repeat it." 10 minutes later, she heard the new hire deliver the script with the calm Ariana admired in others. That night at home, Ariana created a confidence ledger on the back of a grocery receipt. When she wrote, "Taught 1 safe handoff," her shoulders softened. The critic's job, hypervigilance, didn't vanish. It was given a better job, protecting safety by training clarity. Her body understood the transfer before her intellect did. Let's deepen the training with the recode, repeat, reward loop. The loop is the engine behind habit language. Recode is the exact phrase you swap in for a critic line. Repeat is the number of times you use it at a specific cue. Reward is the tiny embodied signal that tells your brain to store the pattern. This is not positive thinking, it's firmware. You pick a cue that already exists, opening your calendar. You recode "I'm drowning" to "I'll make a lane for 1 thing." You repeat it once each time you open the calendar for the next 7 days. You reward by placing your palm on the desk and taking 1 deeper exhale, feeling the wood cool against your skin. Neuroscience short form, dopamine follows successful prediction. When your brain predicts that saying, "I'll make a lane for 1 thing," leads to a felt exhale and 1 scheduled block, it invests. Your jaw unhooks a notch. The room brightens by half a shade, not because the lights changed, but because your visual field widened when the alarm dimmed. Midday, you catch yourself reaching for the old compulsion. Just check social for 1 minute. Your thumb floats, the critic frames it as a break you've earned, and the coach sees the trap. You deploy the no compare window. It's a physical and mental window you open for 90 minutes each day, during which you refuse to ingest other people's highlight reels. You even say it like a declaration as you crack a real window near your desk. Air touches your forearms. Your ears register street noise, a scooter passing, a laugh, a dog bark. You feel a small shiver on your scalp as cooler air meets warm skin. Your nervous system reads novelty. The critic sulks, deprived of ammunition. You return to your work and run coach cadence once quietly, start, steady, sharpen, ship. When you ship, dragging 1 file to the shared folder, you whisper, "Ledger." You feel that banal act land in your body like a pebble in a clear pond. Ripples, not fireworks. Exactly right. Science bridge, then practice. The anterior cingulate cortex acts like a switchboard between emotion and attention. Harsh self-talk lights up error detection without an off-ramp, so you spin. The coach's off-ramp is the micro-debrief, 3 sentences after any meaningful action, spoken softly to seal learning and move on. Sentence 1, what did I intend? Sentence 2, what actually happened? Sentence 3, what will I keep or change next time? The micro-debrief prevents your cingulate from chewing the same bone all day. You step into the hallway where the fluorescent hum sounds like static and you say, intended to simplify the briefing, actually shifted to 2 options and a cost of delay frame. Next time, open with the decision in the first 10 seconds. As you speak, the back of your neck warms. Your system logs the upgrade and frees up attention. The critic has less to feast on when you give it facts and a plan. In relationships, the inner critic often becomes an armchair director, insisting you control the entire scene. You have another tool, the 2-beat repair. Beat 1 is body, beat 2 is bridge. When tension spikes, you tend your body for 1 breath, hand to chest, exhale longer than inhale, and then you build a bridge in 1 sentence. I want us on the same side. Can we name the outcome and the constraint? You keep your tone low and even. Picture setting a plank between 2 docks. During a kitchen argument about chores, your partner snaps. You always bring this up when I'm exhausted. The critic lunges to prosecute. You run the 2-beat, hand to chest. Exhale, same side matters to me. Outcome is fair distribution. Constraint is your energy. Can we set a 5-minute plan tomorrow morning? The air in the kitchen feels less serrated. You both agree on a time. Later, brushing your teeth, you notice your jaw didn't lock for the rest of the night. The critic wanted control. The coach wanted collaboration. The coach won because it talked to the body first. Not every battle is big. Some are as small as whether you speak to yourself like a person or a project. You'll install the first name rule. When you coach yourself aloud, you use your first name once. You don't turn it into a scold. You use it like a teammate would. Okay, Alex, 1 clean paragraph, then stand up. Your amygdala recognizes your name as relevant signal. Your prefrontal cortex recognizes the tone as safe. The combination changes the quality of your attention. Try it once and listen for the almost funny shift in your posture, like you just remembered you have a spine. This isn't gimmickry. It's leveraging your brain's default settings to point you at what matters. Now the story of a near miss transformed by language. Priya, a product manager, walked into a quarterly review with 2 launches behind and 1 stakeholder unhappy. Her critic rehearsed, they'll say you've lost it. In the hallway, she ran the first name rule in a whisper. Okay, Priya, laid with the decision and the repair. She felt the coolness of the wall against her sleeve and the sticky weight of the badge at her collarbone. In the room, when a senior exec asked a sharp question, she felt heat slice through her chest. She ran the 2-beat repair with the team, body first, exhale through the nose, bridge second. We want the same adoption curve. Constraint is dev time. I propose a 2-week freeze on feature creep. After the meeting, her director said, you were crisp. Priya's body reported the bigger news. The tremor in her hands that usually lasted an hour after reviews was gone in 5 minutes. The critic will tell you that language is fluff. Priya's hands disagree. By late afternoon, fatigue makes your inner voice staticky. Install a recovery tool called the 3 switches: light, rhythm, narrative. You lift the blinds to change light. You walk a slow lap to change rhythm. You run a 1-sentence narrative update to change the story. I'm moving from push to glide. 1 small glide gets me home. You breathe while you say it. Glide is a body word. Your shoulders obey. If you need a jolt, run the nose-only breath for 6 cycles. Inhale 4, exhale 6, all through the nose, to nudge your nervous system toward parasympathetic. The critic loses oxygen when you recover rhythm. It goes quiet when it's not needed. You'll also tame the critic's favorite sabotage, Perfection's fake virtue. This is where the 70% script saves you. The script is a boundary sentence you deploy when the inner voice demands flawless. 70% on time with one visible improvement. Say it before you begin, say it at the halfway mark, say it before you ship. The number is not laziness, it's a throttle setting. Your brain needs constraints to move, otherwise it spends fuel on edge polishing instead of delivery. When you ship at 70% with one improvement, simpler intro, clearer labels, you train trust. And trust compounds. Your chest doesn't hitch as you hit send. Your cheeks don't flame when someone replies with a small tweak. Your system understands this is how we build. Night falls, streetlight leaks between blinds, making pale ladders on the wall. The critic likes darkness for a reason. Less input means more projection. You answer with the sanctuary minute. It is the gentlest of tools. Sit on the edge of your bed, both feet flat. Place one hand on your heart and one on your belly. Inhale for 4, hold for 2, exhale for 6. On the hold, speak one sentence of identity. I am the awareness, not the emotion. On the exhale, speak one sentence of direction. Tomorrow I will keep one promise early. Feel the mattress give under your weight, the whisper of sheets when you shift, the faint tick of a distant pipe. The sanctuary minute isn't for fixing, it's for remembering. The critic can knock. It cannot sit on this bed with you unless it learns to lower its voice. Before sleep, run one last drill, the 3-minute debrief for the day's hardest moment. You set a timer and write without prettying it up. Minute 1, what happened in plain words. Minute 2, what your body did. Minute 3, what you'll try next time. You might write, boss question timeline, heat in ears, buzzing in hands, tunnel vision. Next time, ask for the decision first, run OODA in the moment. When the timer ends, you close the notebook, turn off the lamp, and feel darkness settle like a calm ocean. The critic has less to say when the page has already told the truth. There's one more piece to shape your inner voice into a coach, the RASQ stack. A single cue works, a stack turns it into software. Pick 2 daily anchors, door handle, kettle whistle, pair each with one coach phrase. Door handle, enter as the calmest person in the room. Kettle whistle, pour attention where impact is highest. Each time the anchor happens, you speak the line and take one longer exhale. The stack multiplies touches, and touches make tone. In a week, you'll notice the shift not as fireworks, but as a new baseline. Your hand will hit a door handle, and your shoulders will relax before you consciously remember why. That's when you know the coach isn't a guest voice anymore. It's home. And if tomorrow the critic returns with a vengeance, because life will oblige, run the voice valet without drama. I'll hold that. Precision promise for 15. Confidence ledger with ink and skin. 2-beat repair when people in love complicate the day. First name rule to recruit your own attention. 70% script when you could polish forever. RASQ stack to make it automatic. Through all of it, keep the whisper that unlocks the door. You are the awareness, not the emotion. The sky. Not the storm, the one who chooses who speaks and when. The afternoon stretches like taffy and the critic prowls the edges, tapping the glass. You promised yourself you'd make progress on that application, but each time you open the document, your mind fogs and your chest tightens as if a belt got one notch smaller. The critic offers a signature sting. If this were meant for you, it would feel easier. You let the sentence hang in the air without swallowing it. Ease isn't a compass. Clarity is. You're going to install a device that has saved more days than motivation ever did. The friction gauge. You rate from 0 to 10 how much friction you feel toward the task. No judgment, just weather. Today it's a 7, scratchy behind the sternum, a faint buzz in the hands. With that number, you don't wait for inspiration. You reach for the companion tool, the gear shift. 7 means start in first gear, a tiny movement that proves motion. Your coach voice says, open the document and write a single ugly line that begins with "Today I will," then stop. You do it. The line is clumsy. You feel a thin release at the back of your jaw. The belt loosens a hole. The critic mutters that it's nothing. The body says otherwise. First gear engages the engine. Here's the second framework to bind this to identity, the critic contract. You draft it like an agreement between two grown parts of you, no sarcasm, no theatrics. Clause 1, the critic may alert me to standards and risks in headlines only. Clause 2, the coach converts headlines into verbs with time boxes. Clause 3, the observer holds the mic when bodies tighten. You write it on a half sheet, sign your name, and place it where your eyes can land, edge of keyboard, inside of a notebook cover. The critic is not banished. It's bound by terms that respect its ancient job and your current life. As ink dries, you notice your tongue relax from the roof of your mouth. There's a soft coolness along your forearms where the air hits sweat you didn't know you had. Your nervous system registers the difference between being hunted and being held to a standard. One invites flight. The other invites work. You test your contract immediately with an old social snare. A message pops up from a friend whose charm and chaos often sweep you into plans that cost you 3 nights of sleep and a week of quiet resentment. The critic gets loud first. If you say no, they'll think you've changed. The coach flips the clause, convert headline to a verb and a time box. You run the boundaried offer. I'm in for 2 hours on Saturday afternoon. I won't be able to do late nights this round. You type it, noticing the faint tack of keys under your fingertips and the hum of the fridge like faraway surf. You hit send. There's a brief surge of heat in your cheeks, then it passes. The reply arrives, 2 hours works, thanks for being clear. The critic reads the message twice, confused, as if the script ended early. That confusion is proof that your brain is updating. It learns fastest from disconfirming safety predictions. At work, a team channel spirals after a bug report at 4:41 p.m. Fingers point. Your inner voice is tempted to toss gasoline. If you don't defend yourself now, they'll pin it on you. You feel your pulse in your ears. It's time to run a tactical ritual called the 5-breath field test. Breath 1, name the body's state, heat in ears, tight shoulders. Breath 2, name your value, reliability. Breath 3, ask the observer's question, what actually needs doing. Breath 4, decide a single sentence. Breath 5, send it, you type, I see the failure path. I'll patch the validator and push tests in 30. Who can run QA after? You hit enter. Caught breath leaves your chest in a warm ribbon. 33 minutes later, you post the diff. In the quiet that follows, you hear the soft tick of a wall clock that had been masked by adrenaline. This is not about being the hero. It's about letting the critic's headline risk be translated into the coach's verb, patch, without the theater. Because repetition is the mother of tone, you'll build a place to practice when the stakes are low. Enter the language lab. It's a 5-minute daily session where you rehearse, out loud, 3 coach lines linked to 3 common triggers, starting, stumbling, stopping. For starting, you say 2 sentences, then decide focus. For stumbling, extract the instruction, discard the insult. For stopping, 70% with 1 improvement ships. You set a timer, stand by the window, and speak them while looking at something ordinary, a line of bricks, a tree's veinwork of branches. The ordinariness matters. It tells your amygdala that these sentences belong in daily life, not just rare heroics. On the 3rd minute, you notice your breath deepen without command. The brain loves rehearsals that finish clean. You feel the floor through your shoes again. A story to stitch these tools to bone. Nico, a photographer who freelanced weddings but dreamed of portraits that told quieter truths, carried a critic that sounded helpful and cruel in equal measure. Be bold, but don't make a fool of yourself. Before every session, he would spin for an hour, polishing batteries and rechecking lenses until time squeezed. One windy Saturday, he tried the friction gauge, 9, a storm in the chest. He shifted to first gear, write one ugly shot list that began with "Today I will." Then he implemented the Critic contract, headlines only. In the car, he ran the 5-breath field test. Body, buzzing fingers, value presence. What needs doing, connect early. Sentence, let's start near the window. Tell me about the moment you felt most like yourself this month. Breath 5, send it spoken softly when he met his client. The room changed. The client's shoulders lowered, their eyes softened. Nico took 2 photos in the first minute that had the quiet he'd been chasing. That night, he wrote, chose presence under pressure in his ledger and fell asleep with a hum in his sternum like a small engine idling calm. Your own afternoon edges toward a call with someone who intimidates you. The Critic, loyal to its old methods, whispers a prophecy. If you don't impress them in the first 30 seconds, you've lost it. Instead of trying to impress, you install the welcome wedge. It's a wedge because it opens space between trigger and reaction. It's welcome because of its tone. The wedge is a 3-word opener you practice until it's muscle memory. Thanks for joining. You say it as soon as the call connects, and then ask one orienting question you crafted in the language lab. What outcome would make this a slam dunk for you? When you do this, your brain gets to stand on a script instead of a cliff. You feel the headset's foam cushion your ear, the faint heat there, and the light pressure of the cable across your collarbone. You are in your body, which means your prefrontal cortex is in the meeting. The Critic watches from the doorway with its arms crossed, realizing you didn't invite it to run the agenda. Because you're building a life, not a single good day, you need a horizon tool. Meet the compass calendar. Once a week, you assign each day one value as a theme, craft, courage, care, or clarity, and you choose a single sentence that ties that theme to a verb you can see. Monday, craft, edit the middle third for flow. Tuesday, courage, pitch the quiet portrait series. Wednesday, care, call mom, ask real questions. Thursday, clarity, write the decision before the deck. Friday, craft, train composition for 20 minutes. The Critic will scoff that you're simplifying. Exactly. The compass calendar keeps your nervous system from living in constant triage. As you write the words in the squares, your breathing falls into a slower cadence. Paper rasp under pen, the smell of graphite. A faint draft slips along your ankles under the desk. You're reminding your animal body that the future has shape, so today doesn't have to do everything. Even with a horizon, afternoons can trap you in sticky cycles of micro-avoidance. You'll cut those with the 2-minute turn. It's a micro-drill so small it feels like cheating. Set a timer for 120 seconds, do the first visible motion of the thing you're dodging, then stand and name what changed. The name matters, it's the receipt. You open the grant site. You copy last year's summary into a new doc. Timer ends. You stand, feel blood fall down your legs, and say softly, turned from stall to start. When you speak the phrase, your anterior cingulate writes it to the day's log as a category change, not a mood swing. The Critic loses one of its favorite arguments, you're stuck, because the body has evidence that you turned. Sometimes the Critic slips past every guard wearing kindness as a disguise. It says, be gentle, you've had a day, don't push. And sometimes, yes, that's the coach. Sometimes it's a thief that steals your evenings. To catch the difference, you'll use the kindness test. Does this make future? Use load lighter. If yes, it's kindness. If not, it's avoidance in a cardigan. You apply the test to your plan to binge and disappear. Future, you would rather you do the dish and done, wash 3 dishes, wipe the counter, then stop. You feel warm water over cold porcelain, the citrus of soap in the air, the tiny squeak of sponge. Done. The room looks 1 degree more respectful. The critic has nothing to say when your kindness is measured by tomorrow's relief. A small relationship scene seals the day's work. You promised a partner you'd be on time for a dinner and you're 10 minutes behind. The critic lights a flare. They'll read this as disrespect. You run a duo tool, the repair ping and the promise pin. The ping is a 2-line text that holds both care and plan. Running 10 behind. I'm committed to being fully present tonight. Thanks for the extra 10. The pin is a visible micro-action on arrival. Phone in bag, face open, first sentence a check-in question. When you step into the restaurant, warm air hugs your cheeks and the sweet roasted scent blasts. You tuck your phone away, ask, "How was the moment with your manager?" and hold your eyes. The critic wanted punishment. You chose repair. The body reads this as safety. Your breath slides down to the belly and refuses to leave. Let's pull the curtain back on the science, quick and clean. The brain's default mode network loves to wander when untasked. Harsh self-talk turns that wander into rumination. Coach talk, especially verbs pinned to values, recruits the task-positive network, so wandering becomes working or resting instead of circling drain. Meanwhile, your RAS still acts like a nightclub bouncer deciding who gets in. Give it a stamp, words you repeat, so it lets in what you need. You can build a RAS playlist for the week, 5 phrases you will hear yourself say often, each with a paired breath. 1 move in first gear, inhale, headlines to verbs, exhale, extract instruction, discard insult, inhale, 70% and ship. Exhale, you are the awareness, not the emotion. Inhale, you write these on a card and tuck it under your keyboard. Each time you catch one in the wild, you tap the desk twice. That tap is a tiny reward. The playlist becomes the new hum in your head. Evening settles. Street noise thins to an occasional engine and a dog collar's faint jingle. You open your archive, the place where your younger self stored weather reports that felt like prophecy. Instead of bracing, you try the margin mirror. When you encounter a line that hurts, you write beside it the version of you who wrote it, age, job, apartment, fear, and the version of you reading it now, age, tools, boundaries. 22, studio, apartment, 3 side gigs, afraid of being ordinary. 31, critic, contract, gear shift, compass, calendar. You feel a fuller chest, not puffed, just more air. This is not revisionism. It's continuity with compassion. In that space, the critic feels less like a tyrant and more like a guardian who went off the rails and is now being retrained with firm hands and kind eyes. To close the night, you'll climb onto the future you bench. Imagine a simple wooden bench in a small garden, twilight blue. Future you sits there, 5 years out, not a superhero, just a person who kept promises at human scale. You sit beside them. They don't give a speech. They ask one question, the one that narrows the day to its noblest lever. What's the smallest thing tonight that makes tomorrow unmistakably easier? You answer aloud. Lay out the folder and write the first sentence. You do it. The folder's weight in your hand, the whisper of paper against wood, the click of a pen cap seating home, each is a receipt. On the bench, future, you nods like a coach who trusts you not because of words, but because you moved. Before sleep, the critic tries one last shadow line. You'll forget all this and slide back. You breathe in through your nose and let the air cool the back of your throat. You let the exhale lengthen until your shoulders drop toward the mattress. Slide back is a weather pattern. You are not weather. You are the one who watches clouds and plants trees. You whisper the anchor that has escorted you through every chapter. You are the awareness, not the emotion. Then quietly you add the coach's promise to it, and you choose the voice that serves your values. The room grows darker by a shade. Your hands feel warm where they rest on your belly. Somewhere, a neighbor closes a cupboard and the dull thud reaches you as if from underwater. Your body recognizes the signal. The day is complete, not because it was perfect, but because it was directed. Tomorrow, the critic will knock again. Good. The valet will take its keys. The coach will set the play. And you, the observer behind it all, will keep the sky clear enough to see where you're going. Your calendar looks innocent, boxes and lines, a few polite colors, but the critic sees a courtroom. Every empty block is evidence. Every overfull day is negligence. Around 10 a.m., after a small win and 2 rabbit holes, the inner voice tightens its tie and declares, you waste prime hours. Your neck goes rigid. The skin at your collar feels too warm. You're about to argue when you remember the tool you haven't installed yet, the energy ledger. Time tells only half the story. Energy tells the truth. You draw 3 small columns in your notebook, body, brain, heart, and score each from 1 to 10. Body 6, brain 8, heart 4. You do not judge, you inventory. Then you run the match move, match the work to the strongest channel and give the weakest a microcharge. Brain is strongest, so you pick a decision task and set a 15-minute window. Heart is lowest, so you add a 2-sentence check-in later with someone who steadies you. Suddenly, the day isn't a verdict. It's a menu. Your chest loosens by a degree you can't see but can feel, a widening, like the first warm day after rain. To turn this into habit, you bring in the rhythm reset. The critic acts like a metronome set to panic. You reset the tempo deliberately at the top of each hour. Stand. Inhale 4, hold 2, exhale 6. Whisper 1 sentence that names your stance and your next verb. Steady attention, draft. Rhythm reset recruits the anterior cingulate to shift your set, steals fuel from the alarm, and hands it to the prefrontal cortex, where verbs live. You glance out the window. Clouds move like slow ships. The hum of a neighbor's blender vibrates the air. These tiny sensory notices are not decorations. They're data sent to your amygdala that says, we are not in a burning building. Your fingertips warm. The critic clears its throat and finds fewer witnesses in the room. A message pings. A client wants to rethink the whole thing. Your stomach drops. The critic scrambles for the highest ground. This means start over, which means you failed. You reach for a framework precise enough to interrupt catastrophe without denying reality, the scope slicer. You ask 3 slicing questions in a soft voice you can believe. First, what is untouched? Second, what is negotiable? Third, what is truly new? You write the answers in quick ink: untouched, core research; negotiable, sequence; new, intro, frame. Your body reacts to the list like it recognizes a shoreline. Heat drains from your cheeks. You can feel your socks against your ankles again. Then you send a coach sentence. We can keep the research and change frame and sequence. I'll propose 2 intros by 3. The critic wanted a gavel. You gave it a scalpel. Because self-talk sticks when it's anchored to a ritual, you add the boundary bell. It's not a chime on your phone. It's a small phrase you strike at the edge of a task or conversation to protect your energy. The phrase is 5 words. I'm ending well right now. You say it under your breath, then perform 1 visible closure, save file, write 1 learning sentence, or schedule a follow-up. The bell does something subtle and enormous. It prevents the critic from weaponizing loose ends into an identity story. The brain likes clean edges. Your breath deepens when edges are marked. Your field of view widens by a centimeter, enough to catch a square of sun sliding along the floor. Midday, an old ghost visits. You scroll past someone's highlight reel, feel the zap, and the critic delivers a thesis dressed as truth. They're brave, you're safe but small. You meet it with a two-part protocol called Risk, Reframe plus Rail. Risk Reframe acknowledges risk without glamorizing it. You whisper, risk is not drama, risk is design. Then you lay one rail, two constraints and a verb. 2 hours low-stakes pitch. You choose a tiny risky action inside a safe container, send a DM to a local organizer about speaking 5 minutes at an open mic. Attach one idea. You feel the mouse under your palm, the slight friction of the desk, the delicate click as you press send. It's not a movie moment, it's better. It's a small, repeatable way your nervous system learns courage isn't a cliff, it's a ramp. You'll meet resistance again around 2 p.m., the hour when blood sugar dips and criticism masquerades as wisdom. Install the emotional alchemy ladder. It's not poetry, it's a sequence. Notice, name, normalize, nudge. Notice the raw signal buzzing elbows hollow in the gut. Name the emotion in one ordinary word, tired, antsy, edgy. Normalize with a sentence that keeps it human and current. Many people feel this at 2. Nudge with a smallest wise action tied to a value. Honor, care, drink water, stand for 2. Neuroscience footnote: you can feel. Naming reduces amygdala activation. Nudging engages the motor system. The vagus nerve reads the stand-and sip as proof the cave is not collapsing. As the cool water slides down your throat, you hear the fridge motor stop. The room exhales with you. The critic folds its arms and leans against the wall, temporarily out of a job. A story to solder these ideas. Sienna, a copywriter who could write a crystalline sentence and then spend an hour dismantling herself for not writing 10 more, lived in a loop of burst and blame. On a Tuesday that smelled like rain in the hallway, her creative director slacked. "Can you overhaul the landing page by EOD?" The critic lunged. "If you say no, you're fragile. If you say yes, you'll drown." Sienna ran the scope slicer first. Untouched, the product truth. Negotiable, examples, new hook. Then she struck the boundary bell. "I'm ending well right now." She scheduled a check-in at 3, wrote a learning line. Hooks land when they promise a single felt change, and breathed once long. At 2:07 p.m., when her hands started their old tremor, she climbed the emotional alchemy ladder and nudged. Stretch wrists, sip water, 5 clear verbs. She finished at 70% with 1 visible improvement and shipped. The director wrote, "Clean and punchy, 2 tweaks tomorrow." Sienna closed her laptop and felt something unusual, a glossy warmth across the back of her skull, the absence of aftershock. The critic was quiet because it had been recruited, not fought. Late afternoon, your brain offers a familiar false bargain. Work until empty so you deserve rest. The critic loves that because it keeps you on a leash. You counter with the recovery contract. It's a promise you make at the start of the day, honored at the end. "I will stop at a planned time and build a bridge for tomorrow." The bridge is 2 moves. Write the next first sentence and lay out the first object you'll touch. You write "open" with cost of delay framing, then place a sticky note on your keyboard. As you straighten your chair, you notice a low hum under everything: the HVAC, the city, your own blood. It's the sound of systems that keep you alive. You tell your body, "Thank you," as plainly as running water, without ceremony. Gratitude in shadow, quiet and functional, starves the critic of drama. Because inner speech must sometimes be external to be believed, you run the teammate call even if you live alone. It's not a phone call. It's a 30-second voice memo to yourself in teammate tone. "Today we kept the promise pin and the scope slicer brought us calm. Tomorrow we laid with the decision, proud of the steady." You hit send to your own inbox. The act of hearing your voice in coach register feeds your auditory cortex a sample to mimic later. It's not weird, it's training. When you play it, Your ribs widen on the inhale without your permission. That widening is your animal receiving proof of safety. You'll need a boundary for inputs that pretend to be urgent but are actually mood magnets. The critic feasts on pings. Install the two-gate RAS rule. Gate 1 is relevance. Does this feed the day's value theme? Gate 2 is recoverability. If I wait 90 minutes, does anything break? If it fails either gate, it waits. You imagine a bouncer with your face at the door of your attention, stamp in hand. Relevance, recoverability, most things shrug and step aside. A few enter. Your mind doesn't become a monastery, it becomes a venue with a door. Your heart rate slows 3 beats per minute. You can feel your breath moving your shirt against your sternum. The critic, barred from barking at every noise, grows bored and wanders off. Sometimes the critic fronts as the legal department. You can't say that, you'll look foolish. You need a way to test language without letting fear run marketing. Use the sandbox sentence. It's one line spoken in a low-stakes setting that tests a bolder voice. You tell a trusted colleague, I want to propose this frame. We're losing trust in the gap between promise and delivery. You watch their eyebrows. You feel the air on your forearms. No lightning strike. The sandbox gives your nervous system the memo it needs. Boldness can be rehearsed, then scaled. When the big room arrives, your larynx doesn't clamp shut because your body knows the sentence already lives. An interpersonal scene because relationships are where inner talk either matures or regresses. You bring up a boundary with a friend about late cancellations. The critic hisses, they'll brand you rigid. You deploy the clean request. It has 3 pieces, impact, ask, give. When plans shift last minute, I scramble and resent. Could we confirm by noon? I'm happy to host next time. You keep your tone low and the sentences short. Research would tell you about mirror neurons and co-regulation. Your body tells you faster. As you speak, their shoulders drop, yours mirror them. The request lands. The critic, who can't metabolize mutuality, goes quiet. It prefers adversaries. You keep choosing allies. Evenings are for turning down volume without turning off standards. You sit with the laptop glow bluer than you like. The critic tries a velvet knife. You didn't earn rest. You answer with the evidence exchange. You trade your brain's vague indictment for 3 concrete receipts. Kept precision promise, ran 5-breath field test, shipped at 70%. You don't inflate, you log. Then you run 1 cycle of the 4 corners breath. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6, rest 2, while looking at something simple, a lamp's edge, a book's spine, the shadow your mug makes. The light pools warmer at the edges as your pupils relax. The air smells faintly like paper and soap. This is the texture of earned downshift. Your memory has a DJ inside. The reticular activating system spins tracks you request. You build a set for the next week called the coach loop. It's a 4-sentence track played at 3 natural cues. Track lines, scope before story, edges before effort, verbs over verdicts, people before proof. Cues, first door handle, first sip of anything, first open of calendar. Each time a cue hits, play the track once in your head. The RAS will start to autofill. You'll grab a handle and hear scope before story, the way you hear your name in a crowd. That's not magic. It's salience with a better playlist. A story for the edge case, the day that melts. Jonah, an auditor buried in spreadsheets and vaguely haunted by a teacher who once said he was sloppy with details, discovered a discrepancy 10 minutes before a call with a client who liked to pounce. The critic knocked over chairs. If they see the error, you're done. His mouth went dry. He could hear blood in his ears. Instead of sprint spinning, he ran rhythm reset, then scope slicer. Untouched totals still reconcile. negotiable presentation order, new note on a rounding rule. He used the sandbox sentence on a teammate. I'm going to lead with the rounding rule, so we frame this as a standards update. Teammate nodded. On the call, he opened with the decision and a single, clean repair. No fireworks, only steadiness. After he walked outside, felt cold air slap his cheeks, and heard a raven caw so sharply it sounded like a door hinge. He realized the teacher's sentence had lost its seat in his boardroom. The coach owned the head of the table now. You'll end the night where the critic used to feast, in the dark with tomorrow on the mind. Sit at the edge of your bed and run the window widen. The window is your awareness, widen it from self to scene. Notice 3 sounds, distant traffic, a neighbor's laugh, your breath doing its small tide. Notice 3 contacts, heel on wood, cotton against shoulder, cool air on wrist. Then whisper 1 coach truth that doesn't depend on mood. I will ask for the decision first. If your critic surges, you use the voice valet. I'll hold that line for you until morning. Then you lay the bridge for recovery contract, next first sentence, object on keyboard. When the lamp clicks off, darkness feels like a blanket you chose, not a room you're trapped in. Your jaw unclenches. Heat leaves your eyelids. The day closes without a trial. Somewhere between wake and sleep, the old narrative wants one more scene, proof of doom, a montage of almosts. You meet it with the identity anchor you've rehearsed until it's not just words but a posture. You are the awareness, not the emotion. You add the signature you've earned, and you speak to yourself like someone you're responsible for. The sentence lands like a hand on your back, steady and warm. Outside, a car door thunks. Inside, your ribs rise and fall, a door you can open and close at will. That's the quiet power you've been building, not louder talk, but truer direction. The critic will still visit. Good. It can sit on the porch. The coach has the house keys. The thing about a hard week is that it breeds a certain flavor of prophecy. By Thursday morning, the critic isn't even theatrical, it's matter of fact. Of course you'll fumble the client review. Of course your words will come out thin. You feel the familiar squeeze below your sternum, like a belt pulled one hole too tight. The room isn't hostile, soft light through blinds, mug leaving a ring on the coaster, but your body reads court summons. You let your eyes rest on the ring of condensation, then you run a quiet ritual that builds stage and sanity at once. The green room protocol. Performers use green rooms to settle their nervous systems before a show. You'll use one to coach your voice. 3 moves. Hang wardrobe. Lay out the 3 sentences you might need. Opening, pivot, close. Warm breath. 5 cycles of 4-4-6 with your tongue on the roof of your mouth. Step to mark. Stand and say your opening once at the volume you'll use. Decision first. We'll keep the skeleton and switch the muscle. Same structure, more story. I'll show the 2 options. Your throat loosens. You hear the fabric of your shirt pull softly across your shoulders as you roll them back. Your inner voice lowers its shoulders with you. There's a second device for the days you carry too much weather inside and still have to walk into other people's storms. The buffer rule. For every high-stakes conversation, you add a 2-minute buffer before and after. Before you run signal, then scope, signal safety to the body, then scope the ask down to 1 verb. After, you do the 1 breath bow, 1 slow exhale as you silently name gratitude in shadow. Hard talk, cleaner path. This isn't a ceremony for show. It's a nervous system hygiene routine. When you honor buffers, the critic loses its favorite leverage, urgency as identity, and your reticular activating system stops scanning for social threat like it's a radio man in a war movie. You notice banal things again, the tiny ticking of the wall clock, a stripe of light sliding along the table like a snail. Your calendar dings 15 minutes before the review, and the critic whispers a line it learned from someone who loved you but taught you fear. Don't be too much. The phrase is sticky because it sounds like care. You meet it with a tool called no drama data. You say, out loud but softly, a fact that matters. They asked for a choice by 11:30. Then you use the calibration question to keep the body honest. What would 70% clarity sound like? You speak it once. Option A, we restore trust with a story-first opening. Option B, we keep numbers first and add a consequence slide. You aren't trying to conjure genius, you are calibrating. Your jaw releases a notch. The air tastes faintly metallic from the mug rim. It's just a taste, not a story. The critic is disarmed by practical requests. It thrives on myths. In the room, the first 5 minutes wobble. A senior stakeholder frowns at the second slide. Your chest bumps a little faster. This is where you run a framework called 3 lights. Green means go, keep course. Yellow means check, ask one clarifying question. Red means stop, reset frame. The critic thinks every frown is red. You test it. What decision do we want by the end of this slide? Yellow. You get an answer. We need yes on the new opening. You reset nothing. You cut 2 lines and move on. Later, you will wonder how many times your inner voice called red on a yellow and wasted a day. Today you get one back. When the meeting ends, you walk to the window. The glass is cool against your forearm. You watch an elevator ascend, small box of people, tiny planets with weather of their own. Your breath goes low again. Because your life isn't just rooms and slides, we walk into the rustle of money and time. You've delayed a finance conversation with yourself for months, subscriptions you don't use, a savings plan that sounds like chore. The critic frames it as moral worth. A competent person wouldn't be here. You refuse the moral frame. You deploy the 2-ledger edit. Ledger 1 is numbers. Ledger 2 is language. You look at charges and speak to yourself in coach tone as you write. Cancel the app, automate the transfer, set a review date. 3 moves, 3 verbs. You feel your face warm as you click cancel, it fades. You place your palm flat on the table and notice the grain under skin, slightly rough where the wood is raised. This texture matters. It tells your animal you are dealing with wood and numbers, not character and doom. The critic tries to make everything personhood. The coach keeps it procedural. A text from a friend drops in with good news, promotion, party, photos. You're happy and something else, a little sour heat behind the eyes. The critic tries to turn the heat into meaning. See, you're not built for big arcs. You meet it with the doorman dialogue. This tool gives your RAS an actual job. The doorman works a door marked useful sentences only. You say gently but firmly, that sentence doesn't get in. Try a headline with a value. The inner doorman looks at the critic, points at the sign. The critic mutters, then produces a passable headline. You want more courage reps. The doorman nods. You reply with the rail you set earlier, 2 constraints, 1 verb, Tuesday night, 45 minutes, pitch. This is not a dopamine spike, it's a direction. You feel a breeze snake up your sleeves from the AC vent. The room is the same, your weather is workable. In the middle of a routine task, you catch a fresh angle of sabotage, narrative swells. The critic zooms out to your whole life and announces a score middling. It's designed to make you stop. You answer with edge mapping. Draw the smallest edge of the thing you're doing and walk it like a curb. Edge, rename files and label version. There is a calm pleasure in a labeled version that no one puts in movies. You click, you type, you pause and stretch your wrists, hearing a dry little pop. This is the rhythm of dignity. The critic doesn't understand dignity because it can't quantify it. You can. It lives in the felt difference between being whipped forward and walking yourself, steady, under your own command. Let's show the practice to relationship again, where self-talk either matures or backslides. You're going to have a truth conversation with someone you love. The critic wants it to be a trial with transcripts. You choose a framework called gentle guardrails. 2 rails, kind tone, clear ask. 1 bridge, shared value. I care about us feeling safe. I need your eyes on me when we talk about money. Can we try 10 minutes on Sunday mornings? You keep your voice low, slower than your stress wants. You smell the faint citrus of dish soap on your hands as you gesture. When they answer with relief, yes, and can we keep it to 10, you feel a hummingbird quicken and then settle in your chest. It isn't victory, it's alignment. The critic is terrible at alignment. It thinks winning is the only move. Your coach knows better. The shared middle is where people breathe. A quick science splice you can feel. When you deliver a clear ask anchored to a shared value, mirror neurons do a mimicry dance. Your partner's nervous system reads your calm as signal and returns it. Your own anterior cingulate, the bridge builder, lights up and moves electricity across networks. Less rumination, more action. Translation, you think better when you speak like a kind architect. Try this in your body now. Sit. Inhale 4, hold 2, exhale 6. Whisper, kind tone, clear ask. Notice the air at the edge of your nostrils, cooler on the inhale, warmer on the exhale. That difference is your nervous system doing its tiny weather work. Afternoon comes with a project you've avoided because it feels identity adjacent. Your portfolio, your bio, your reel. The critic makes everything theological when identity is involved. If you show up small, you'll be seen forever as small. You refuse theology. You use the spotlight dimmer. The dimmer is an instruction to your attention. Light the work, not the you. You open a doc titled Hero Sentences and write 3 lines that make the work shine. Designed onboarding that shaved 3 minutes per user. Wrote copy that increased trial conversions by 8%. Built a system, reduced bugs by half. You speak each line quietly and watch how your breath behaves. It lengthens because numbers convince what adjectives can't. You feel the chair cushion under your hamstrings, the slight rebound when you shift. You keep the dimmer low and the work clear. The critic has less to say when your bio reads like a lab report with heart. Here's a moment that once would have set you pinwheeling. Your boss DMs a calendar invite titled Alignment Chat. The critic rotates the word alignment into a threat, euphemism for discipline. Heat surges up your chest and turns your tongue into felt. You run the 90-second weather rule with a twist called the anchor question. What alignment do I want? 90 seconds later, breath even, shoulders a hair lower. You write a single line and keep it visible during the chat. Alignment I want, clear decision authority on timelines. During the call, when the conversation drifts to personality, you use the yellow light of 3 lights. To make sure we land this, can we decide who owns timeline changes? The boss smiles, grateful that someone is steering. Call ends. Your palms are warm, not slick. Your throat feels like a hallway instead of a choke point. The critic looks for something to prosecute and finds only a floor plan with doors that open. Because you're building for longevity, you'll budget the critic like a resource. Meet the critic budget. Each day you allow 15 minutes for hard-nosed review, no shame, just ruthless craft checking. Set a timer. Start with blue first, circle what works, then let red mark gaps. When the timer ends, the critic is cut off. It can file motions tomorrow. This keeps standards high without giving the mic to fear. After your budget window, you run a micro-celebration, 3 breaths with palms pressed, then a quiet kept the craft. You might hear the soft whir of a fan, the street below, a cupboard click from a neighbor. These small environmental sounds are like witnesses while you sign the day's treaty. Standards honored, humanity intact. A story to bolt the method to bone. Ria, a second-year attorney with a gift for clarity and a habit of panic polishing until 2 a.m., tried the Critic budget for the first time on a brief. 15 minutes of red and blue. The Critic screamed at the timer when it ended. Ria whispered the one-breath bow and walked away. In court, the judge asked a question Ria used to dread. She ran 3 lights to yellow, asked a clarifying question, and pivoted clean. After walking down stone steps slick with fog, Ria smelled wet limestone and petrol. She realized her body wasn't shaking. The brief was better, not perfect. She had energy left to call her father on the bus. The Critic didn't get to punish her into competence. The coach trained it into service. Evenings invite quiet sabotage, doom-scrolling, sugar, punishing review. You'll install a door made of words, the 2-question threshold. Before you open an app, a fridge, or a memory, you ask, does this refill what I emptied? Will this make future me lighter? If the answer is no, you run a 2-minute substitute that does refill, water, stretch, 3-sentence chapter. This is not Puritanism, it's logistics. Your body reads refills as kindness and repays you with cleaner attention. As you sit back down, you hear a night insect buzz against the screen and fall quiet. Lights outside smear into small galaxies. The day tilts toward close. Close with the coach tagline, a single sentence you'll use this week as the signature of your inner voice. Taglines make memory sticky. Choose one that carries verbs and values. Keep it muscular, not lyrical. Lead with the decision, protect the craft, repair fast. Write it on a card, tape it near your screen. Each time the card enters your peripheral vision, breathe once longer and whisper it under your breath. Your reticular activating system, trained by repetition, will surface moments to use it. You'll catch your hand on a door handle and hear, lead with the decision, like the chorus of a song you finally like. One last practice before you sleep, edge of pillow, edge of day, sit on the side of the bed. Feel the right angle where mattress meets air against the backs of your legs. Place a hand on your chest and one on your belly. Whisper 3 receipts, one thing you started in first gear, one boundary you kept, one repair you made or planned. Open the doc and wrote, today I will, said 2 hours on Saturday, proposed decision ownership. The room is cooler against your cheeks. The sheets make a soft whisper as you turn them back. The Critic wants a trial. You keep giving it receipts like a bookkeeper of integrity. Numbers don't love drama, they love truth. If your mind insists on a final montage of almosts, you let it play with volume down. You slide a hand along the sheets, cotton, slightly rough from air drying, and you let your exhale lengthen until your ribs glide down like a gate settling into place. Then you say the line that keeps all the others in orbit, the identity sentence that isn't a charm so much as a posture your bones are learning to adopt. You are the awareness, not the emotion. And because you've earned it, you add the coach's clause that turns identity into instruction, and you keep speaking to yourself like someone you are responsible for. Outside, a late scooter drones and fades. Inside, your breath marks time like waves on a shore you finally trust. The Critic will come tomorrow. Good, it can knock. The doorman is trained. The budget is set. The coach will open the day. You wake into a quiet that feels earned and precarious at once. The Critic waits in the doorway like a hall monitor with a clipboard. It doesn't shout. It murmurs in the voice of practicality. Don't get cocky. Yesterday was an exception. Your chest tightens a notch, like a backpack strap tugged short. You stand, feet on cool floorboards, and you install the day's first tool before coffee, the one-line North Star. It is a single sentence that prints direction across your mind's windshield so the Critic can't smuggle mood in as a map. You write it on a sticky note in 4 words, verb and value first. Decide early on a craft. You place the note on the kettle. Steam hisses. You hold the warm mug and feel heat travel into your palms, a quiet oath. When the critic suggests that excellence requires pressure, the North Star answers with a calm mechanics. Decide, honor, you're not chasing glow. You're building rails. Mid-morning it begins, the friction you've logged 100 times but never fully mapped. You overread a client's short reply, you reread your last message. The critic slides in with a reasonable story. If they're concise, they're cold. If they're cold, something's wrong. Your throat narrows by a millimeter. You catch it with a device built for this flavor of panic story, the trigger translation grid. The grid converts a spiky interpretation into 3 alternatives before your nervous system files it as truth. You whisper 3 translations, 1 positive, 1 neutral, 1 negative but small. Positive, they're moving fast and need clarity. Neutral, they're concise. Negative, small, they're stressed. Then you ask the grid's question, which translation keeps me useful? Neutral wins. You type, confirming the decision we want by noon, option A or B, you send. The moment after sending is the real practice. Your ears catch the refrigerator motor cutting off, the silence that follows like a felt drop in air pressure. Your jaw releases. The grid doesn't banish fear, it gives your body something more accurate to carry. To protect this accuracy, you'll layer a second safeguard into the morning, the attention budget. Your prefrontal cortex can only spend so much focused attention before it gets sloppy. The critic spends it fast on monitoring imaginary verdicts. You write a tiny budget on a card, deep work, 60 minutes, decisions, 30, logistics, 30, people, 30. You aren't aiming for perfect accounting. You're training the RAS to route signal toward what you say matters. When the urge to check messages flickers, you glance at the card, feel the tooth of the cardstock under your thumb, and hear the soft scratch as you set the pen down. Budget preserved. The critic hates budgets because they lower drama. You gently prefer boredom with progress to a thriller about failure. A story to lay rails. Leela, a senior analyst who carried a bruise from a boss who once called her tentative, lived in a cycle of over-prep and last-minute sprints. On a Tuesday that smelled like dust and lemon cleaner, her new director pinged, "Can you frame the risk for the execs?" Leela's critic rose with its old gavel. She pulled out a card and wrote her one-line North Star, "Lead with consequence, ask." Then she ran trigger translation on her own flutter. Positive, they trust my judgment. Neutral, they need a frame. Negative, small, they forgot context. She chose neutral and sent. Decision to land, accept variance or add control. I'll show cost of delay versus control. In the room, when a frown appeared, she used 3 lights to yellow and asked, which metric is non-negotiable? Afterward, she walked down the hallway where the AC made a soft, constant hush and realized her palms were dry. Not cool, not clammy, just hands. The critic's prophecy, tentative, couldn't stick to someone who owned the decision and asked the right question. Your noon energy dips, as predictable as weather. The critic tries to narrate the dip as character. There you go again, sliding. You counter with the 90-second weather rule plus a tweak called snack the signal. You don't just let the emotion crest and fall, you feed your nervous system a signal that you're resourced. A handful of nuts, a tall glass of water, 2 minutes near a window. You stand, spine stacking, and feel the stretch along your hip flexors. On the second swallow, your tongue recognizes the faint mineral taste of the water. Your field of view widens by a hair. When you sit, you run a micro drill, the 2 dots start. Dot 1, write the decision at the top of your doc. Dot 2, write the first verb. Decision, keep case studies, change order, verb sequence. You move. The critic tries to relitigate mood, but mood doesn't cancel verbs, it yields. You'll anchor this into relationship, where old sentences love to masquerade as instinct. A friend texts, We should talk with no punctuation. Your chest pinches. The critic drafts 3 pages. Instead of reading them, you run the double-check duplex, 1 check for context, 1 for care. You ask, context, today or later, and care, are you wanting ideas or just a listener? It's 2 lines sent in a tone you'd want to receive. The reply comes with laughing emoji. Later, listener. Your shoulders drop, and you feel the shirt fabric loosen across your back. Duplex isn't etiquette. It's nervous system engineering disguised as kindness. The critic is bad at checking. You're training it to respect doors before barging through. Afternoon brings the task with 10 corners, the one that activates the critic's favorite trick. Declare everything a priority so nothing moves. You install the domino map. It's simple math of momentum. Find the piece that topples 3. You look at the mess and ask, which small action will reduce downstream thinking? You circle, decide, file structure, not because it's glamorous, but because it prevents a day of hunting. You spend 6 minutes naming folders clearly. Your future self breathes better. Right now, you feel a small, sweet fatigue in your forearms, the kind you get from carrying groceries the right way. Dominoes fall without the soundtrack of doom. Science in a paragraph you can use. Your brain's prediction engine saves fuel by guessing what matters and what's dangerous. Harsh self-talk programs danger labels onto anything identity adjacent. The one-line North Star, trigger translation grid, and domino map feed the engine better labels, verbs tied to values and clear next moves, so it guesses for you instead of against you. You'll feel the change as less micro-tension in your jaw, fewer micro-pauses before starting, and more of those surprising moments when you hear the room again. The printer chirp, the stairs creak, the city a distant low tide. That's not sentiment, it's salience recalibrated. On a call, someone talks over you. The critic reaches for humiliation like a reflex. Heat rises behind your ears, your tongue goes dry. Here's where you deploy the gentle interrupt. It's a 1-2 cadence you can practice at half volume until it belongs in your mouth. Jumping in, then the bridge, so we can land X. You keep your tone unhurried and your breath anchored low. Jumping in, so we can land the decision on sequence. Option B keeps us honest about timing. You feel the mic return to your hand with less friction than the drama promised. Your diaphragm drops like a weight lowered by a pulley. You are not trying to own the room. You're returning it to the topic. The critic has no foothold when the coach moves at that speed and temperature. Late afternoon, you meet the habit of overworking the last 2 hours into a blur of mess fixes and thought loops. The critic insists this is how you earn your sleep. You refuse the bargain and activate the golden 20. It's a container you guard. The last 20 minutes belong to review and bridge, not new fires. You open your confidence ledger, write 3 receipts in coach tone, and then build tomorrow's bridge. First sentence, first object. While you write, you hear the faint click of the heater, the tiny hiss as pipes expand, the boring, steady music of infrastructure. Your hands feel warm, your jaw is not at war with your molars. The golden 20 is church without pomp. You mark your own time sacred, and your body reads it. A story that looks like yours in a different mirror. Marco, a high school music teacher with a gift for pulling orchestras together out of chaos, carried a critic that turned every rehearsal into a measure of his worth. On the day before concert, a violinist stumbled on a new passage. The critic lunged. You should have prepared them better. Marco tasted old metal in his mouth, fear like a coin under the tongue. He paused, ran the gentle interrupt with his own chatter, jumping in so we can land tone, and executed the domino map out loud. We start with bowing, then tempo, last we do dynamics. He wrote tone, tempo, dynamics on the whiteboard, the marker squeaking in a way that steadied him. The rehearsal knit together. After dismissal, he stood in the empty gym, heard the rafters hum, and realized his body wasn't buzzing. The critic had nothing to punish because the coach had given it a job and a list. During the performance, when a wrong note slipped out like a bird in the wrong season, Marco felt only warmth for the student. His inner tone had shifted from prosecutor to conductor. Evenings are when identity work tries on costumes, good and bad. You decide to update your portfolio, a stage that used to turn your stomach to glass. The critic whispers legacy. If you show yourself, they'll see where you're thin. You dim the spotlight again and run the result mechanism, meaning triangle. You write 3 sentences per project. Result, what changed in numbers or clear effect. Mechanism, what you actually did. Meaning, what value it served. Reduced churn by 3 points. Resequenced onboarding with 2 cues, honored clarity. You read them aloud. Your breath lengthens without being asked. You feel the chair cushion compress and then expand under your shifting weight like a tide. The triangle doesn't flatter, it frames. And framing is mercy for a brain that loves to make personality crime scenes. You will be tempted to skip repair where it matters most because repair feels like kneeling. Your critic hates kneeling. You don't kneel, you perform the standing repair. It's done upright with breath under your words. I missed X. I see the impact. Here's what I'll do. Can we confirm why? You call your sister, name the missed call last night, the impact, worry, and the planned text next time you slam. Her voice warms like tea. The conversation ends without drama. You place your phone down and listen to the little thud, the object-ness of it. Your chest loosens. The critic can't feast when you feed repair to the relationship in 4 clean bites. A spike arrives late, courtesy of an email with vague tone. Your shoulders try to climb your ears again. Hear S where you drop in the 10-word tether. It's a sentence you crafted in calm and saved for storms. 10 words, no fluff, verbs and values only that return your posture. Lead with decision, ask the constraint, ship 70% with 1 improvement. You whisper it once. The tether is a rope you can feel in the hand, rough, dependable. Your exhale grows longer than your inhale. The room looks 3 degrees warmer because your pupils adjusted when your nervous system exited threat and entered task. You reply to the email with a clean question, then close the tab. A paragraph of brain again, then back to breath. When you use fixed, repeated tethers, you recruit long-term potentiation, neurons that fire together wire together. The 10-word tether becomes a myelinated pathway, easier to travel than the old rut of insult. Over weeks, that shows up as the critic arriving later and leaving sooner, like a neighbor who used to barge in and now knocks, asks for sugar, and goes home. You won't notice on a given Tuesday. You'll notice when someone who knew you a year ago says, "You're calmer." That line lands in your gut with warmth because it's data from the outside world. You didn't just think yourself calm, you behaved it into view. Night comes, the city thins into little constellations of sound, the garage door below, a bicycle chain somewhere, a neighbor laughing at a show you guess from the rhythm. You prepare sleep with the green room protocol for tomorrow's morning. You lay out 3 lines, breathe 5 cycles, speak the opening once. Then you perform the archive edit on a single old page, writing in the margins the value underneath the panic, the upgrade you de-offer now. A tenderness gathers under your sternum, not pity, not triumph. Continuity, you were trying to protect yourself with a dull blade. Now you carry a better tool. You lay the page down. The paper whispers against wood. Before you slide under covers, you do one last micro drill, the RAS beacon. It's one sentence you want your attention system to seek tomorrow, paired with an image. Find moments to ask for the decision, paired with the picture of a door handle. Your hand will hit a handle in the morning and your shoulders will drop because your RAS loves a request it can fulfill. You feel the cool of the bedsheet against your shins, the heavier warmth where your calves press into mattress foam. Breath in, breath out. You whisper the identity shift that has become less a phrase and more a way your body holds itself in rooms. You are the awareness, not the emotion. And because you can, because you've earned the confidence to instruct rather than played, you add the coach's clause, and you aim your awareness with verbs and values. If the critic tries to stage one last late-night hearing, you give it the voice valet with a smile. I'll hold that until morning. Then you breathe 446 once more. Somewhere a pipe knocks in the wall. Somewhere a car turns a corner with a soft hiss of tires. Inside, where your operating system runs, the updates take. You can almost hear them installing quietly, like a program choosing a better default. Tomorrow, there will be briefs and bread and people and weather. The critic will knock. You will answer with a North Star and a budget, a tether and a grid, a voice that is firm, warm, and yours. By midweek, the calendar squares blur and your focus frays into lint. The critic has a practical knife for this. You're scattered, therefore you're unserious. You feel that knife slide just under the ribs, a thin discomfort, not agony, but enough to tilt your posture forward. Today you'll install a perimeter the critic can't weaponize, the focus fence. A fence is not a prison. It's a defined field where you can actually play. 3 posts hold it up. Post 1 is outcome, post 2 is constraint, post 3 is next step. You write them as OCN at the top of a page and fill them in for the next 90 minutes. Outcome, draft the core message for the campaign. Constraint, 70 minutes, no visuals. Next step, write 3 why now sentences. As you ink the letters, the scratch of pen on paper feels like a zipper closing a jacket. You're contained, warmed by boundary. Your shoulders soften. There's a little fizz at the base of your skull that isn't anxiety. It's focus returning electricity to the places it belongs. To make the fence durable, you stack it with a second tool, the detachment dial. Dials invite nuance. You're choosing a setting, not flipping a switch. The dial ranges from 0, fully attached to outcome, to 10, fully detached, all process. You set today's dial at 6. You care about clarity, but you're loyal to reps, not miracles. Before you begin, you breathe 446 with your tongue on the roof of your mouth and whisper, dial at 6. In neuroscience, in one sentence, attachment spikes amygdala noise. Process loyalty hands the prefrontal cortex the wheel. You feel it as a temperature shift. Heat leaves your cheeks, cool air touches your forearms, and suddenly the cursor blinking on a quiet screen looks less like a threat and more like a metronome. The critic tries a new angle, helpful, almost charming. What if you researched 3 more examples before writing? It sounds like excellence but smells like delay. You run a micro drill called the 2-line lock-in. You type 2 unfinished opening lines in 60 seconds. We don't buy products, we buy the future we can picture in 60 seconds. Trust doesn't come from facts, it comes from the order of facts. They're rough, they're enough. The point isn't poetry, it's posture. Your chest lifts a centimeter, as if a hand under your sternum pressed you gently upward. You keep going. A story lands because stories lay track your brain will reuse. Dev, a UX lead with a critic quick to call him indecisive, found himself in a sprint review where 3 stakeholders wanted 3 different angles. His chest went tight, sweat blooming under his collar. The old script said to please everyone and then punish himself later. He drew OCN on a sticky. Outcome, a line on first click target. Constraint, 10 minutes. Next step, choose primary call to action. Then he used the detachment dial, set it at 7, and said, "We have 10. First click target matters most for flow. Are we all okay with that decision lens?" Heads nodded. He wrote 2 sentences on a whiteboard, squeak of marker grounding him. First click removes doubt. Secondary click confirms choice. The room exhaled. After, Dev walked outside, felt the wind flick under his shirt, and realized he wasn't vibrating with the usual aftershock. The critic didn't get a trial because the coach set a fence and a dial. Mid-morning, a familiar microstorm rolls in when a coworker writes, "Quick question," with no context. Your throat tightens, saliva thins. The critic grabs the mic, they found a flaw. You introduce the field of view reset. Stand or sit tall. Imagine your attention is a camera lens and physically widen your gaze, picking 3 edges of the room: the top of the monitor, the doorframe, the corner where ceiling meets wall. Speak 1 neutral description. A question arrived. Then 1 coach direction. Ask for scope. You type, "Happy to help. Are you asking about flow A or B?" The reply arrives. Adjust timeline. Your body unknots. You hear the faint hum of the building's ventilation system, a soft, artificial breeze you usually ignore. Field of view reset breaks the tunnel that panic builds. Your visual system drags your cognition back into a bigger world than the sentence in your head. Your next tool is quieter and older, the compassion audit, not indulgence audit. 3 silent checks when the critic begins to salt the wound. Check 1, would I speak this way to someone I mentor? Check 2, is the sentence about identity or behavior? Check 3, what is the smallest compassionate verb now? The audit doesn't ask you to flatter yourself, it asks you to trade cruelty for calibration. You're a mess fails, check 1 and 2. You left this late, rescope to protect quality, draft the headline now passes. Your breath gets longer. The taste in your mouth loses its copper tinge. You are not less exacting, you are less corrosive. Lunch tastes like cardboard when the critic narrates while you chew. You counter with the RAS breadcrumbs. A breadcrumb is a tiny marker you drop so your attention can find its way back. You choose 3 words you'll plant in today's path: decision, pace, repair. After you eat, you place the words at natural cues. Door handle, decision. First click into the dock, pace. Water glass at 3 p.m., repair. Each time you whisper 1, you pair it with a single breath. Each time you use 1 in the wild, you tap the desk twice. A reward pulse barely audible even to you. Later, when your hand meets the door handle and your shoulders release without a pep talk, you'll know the breadcrumbs worked. The reticular activating system loves a scavenger hunt with prizes. A client call looms where an old power dynamic lives. The critic forecasts humiliation as weather. We'll upgrade the meteorology with the 3-box frame. 3 boxes appear on your mental whiteboard: decision, data, door. Decision is the thing you want from the call in a sentence. Data is the 2 pieces of information that support it. Door is the exit if the room turns. You fill them. Decision, a line on story first opening. Data bounce rate on first 30 seconds, A/B result from last quarter. Door propose a 24-hour test if pushback persists. You write the words and feel the friction reduce by half like oil on a hinge. During the call, when a voice interrupts with a sideways ask, you gently tap the decision box with your pen tiny click and say, to land the decision, here's the opening we are proposing and why. Voices settle. You're not rigid. You're framed. Science bridge kept humble. Under stress, blood flow shifts toward the amygdala and away from the prefrontal cortex. Details feel like threats. Named frames, focus fence, 3-box serve as cognitive prosthetics. They let the prefrontal cortex borrow structure when fuel is low. You feel the difference as a change in texture. The world stops being all edges and becomes a mix of lines and curves again, your hands warm. Your voice finds its lower register, which other nervous systems read as steadiness. You are literally giving people, and yourself, better biology to co-regulate with. The afternoon drifts toward a project you've avoided because it's braided with your story about being late to the party. The critic loves that braid, it yanks. You run the momentum mosaic. Instead of hunting a single grand move, you lay 5 tiles you can place in 25 minutes. Title a doc, paste in 3 quotes, sketch 1 outline, write 2 sentences, schedule 1 review. Mosaic is mercy for brains that forget progress can be modular. You place tile 1, title clicks into place. 2, 3 quotes land with their little quotation marks like brackets holding future sense. By tile 5, your shoulders sit an inch lower and the air on your skin reads cool again. You didn't change the past. You made a surface future you can stand on. Relationship arena, always the truest test. You and a partner have to decide whether to attend a family event with high drama potential. The critic frames it as character against character, strong vs weak. You refuse the courtroom and use the shared map. You draw 3 overlapping circles labeled your needs, my needs, us. In your, they write time with siblings. In my, you write a buffer and exit plan. In us, you both write stay connected, minimize collateral. Then you run OCN out loud. Outcomes support family connection without meltdown. Constraint leave by 9, 2 breaks. Next step, text host and set expectation. You say it gently, eyes soft, voice low. The mirror neurons do their quiet dance, shoulders unhunch on both sides. The critic can't weaponize a map you drew together. You will hit the 3 p.m. dip, a small cliff your body knows like a crease in a road. The critic sells caffeine and contempt. Instead, try the 180-second reset. Minute 1, breath, 4 in, 2 hold, 6 out. Minute 2, posture, stand, reach, roll shoulders, feel the micro stretches along the ribs like little zippers opening. Minute 3, phrase, 1 coach sentence tied to the focus fence. Outcome, headline paragraph, constraint, 10 minutes. Next, first line ugly. When you sit, the chair feels firmer under your thighs, the desk edge less like a guillotine, more like a workbench. You begin. The critic mumbles, you draft. A scene from someone else's Thursday to fasten your own. Nor a junior producer who could keep a dozen plates spinning and still feel like a failure, watched a calendar invite labeled scope drift. Land at 4:02 p.m. Her stomach did a small flip, hands going cool. She ran field of view reset, doorframe, window top, paper corner, then the 3-box frame. Decision freeze scope. Data 2 overruns, burn rate. Door push 1 low impact feature. In the room when the senior engineer said, "We always add late," nor used the gentle interrupt cadence she'd practiced at half volume. Jumping in, so we can land scope, freeze tonight, push the tutorial. Head nods. After she walked past the server room, felt the hot air spill out when the door swung, and noticed something wild. Her inner voice did not demand a postmortem on her personality. It asked for the learning sentence she now writes by reflex. We froze scope at yellow, next time name it a week earlier. She wrote it, her jaw unclenched. The critic was not fired. It was promoted to standards keeper under a human manager. You've put off money calls and doctor appointments because the critic binds anxiety to the phone icon. Run the call capsule. It's a tiny script that encases a call so emotion doesn't flood it. Capsule has 2 compartments, opening purpose and next 2 questions. You jot purpose, confirm availability. Q1, soonest date. Q2, prep needed. You dial. The ringtone carries across your forearm as a faint vibration from the phone's weight. When the receptionist answers, The words are already on your tongue. The call is short. You hang up and feel a strange relief at your elbows, a release you didn't know sat there, like slack returning to a rope. The critic prefers narratives to scripts. You just showed it that scripts are stories with doors you can open and close. Small science and then a breath. When you rehearse micro scripts, gentle interrupt, call capsule, you build myelin around those specific pathways. Recall becomes reflex. That's why the second time the sentence slides out smoother. The queue of neural traffic moves faster through a lane you've paved. Your body notices it as less static before you speak and a cleaner echo after, as if the room acoustics improved. Late afternoon drifts toward an email you're afraid to send because it might invite conflict. Your critic calls conflict a fire. You use the 7-second sandwich. First 3 seconds, thank and name the shared aim. Middle 1 second, clear ask. Last 3 seconds, offer a clean next step. Appreciate your push for clarity. We both want clarity. Decision by Wednesday. If so, I'll send 2 options tonight. You type, hear the faint clack of keys like rain on a thin roof. Feel cool air brush your knuckles. You hit send. That's not bravery the size of a movie. It's bravery scaled to a nervous system. Bravery you can repeat. Evening brings the bookend repair, the tiny equals sign at the ends of your days. This morning you promised OCN for 90 minutes. You look honestly at what happened. Outcome 60% draft. Constraint kept mostly, bled 10 minutes into visuals. Next step, write the 3 why now sentences before lunch tomorrow. You don't plead, you log. Then you run the whisper forward to tomorrow SU. Decision early, dial at 6, fence up. Your tongue touches the roof of your mouth, and the whisper leaves warm air on your palate like steam. The room tilts toward kind. You will be tempted right now to scroll until your brain is threadbare. The critic will sink its teeth into the thread. Deploy the door with a guard. You ask 2 questions. What am I trying not to feel? And what would help me feel it without drowning? The answers are prosaic and precise. I'm tired and a bit lonely. Text 1 person a 3-sentence check-in, take a shower. You do both. Hot water slides down your back. The scent of soap makes a small halo in the air. Your skin prickles where cold air meets wet neck as you step out. Loneliness is not exiled. It is witnessed and tended. The critic, hungry for unprocessed ache, goes to bed a little underfed. A last story, because bone learns by echo. Carmen, a chef de partie with a temper that used to flare like oil catching, found herself on a slammed Friday letting an inner tirade burn holes through her head. You're slow, you'll tank the line. She grabbed a dry erase marker with fingers slick from steam and wrote OCN on the lobe. Outcome plates hot. Constraint 10 minutes per ticket. Next, prioritize proteins. She set the detachment dial at 8. Process, process, process. When the head chef barked, she ran the compassion audit silently. Would I speak this to a mentee? And swapped sentences mid-reach. Your slow became your overloaded. Drop garnish 3 and catch breath. Her hands steadied. After service, the walk-ins smelled like oregano and cold aluminium. Her breath came easy among the milk crates. The critic wasn't castrated, it was reclaimed. A fierce guardian rehired with clear instructions. Before sleep, you'll practice the green room protocol for the morning and lay 3 lines that will carry you over the first waking wave. Opening, pivot, close. Opening, decide early. Pivot, scope to protect craft. Close 70% and ship. You breathe 5 cycles, then speak the opening once. The words wear your voice like a well-tailored coat. Then you perform the archive edit on a page from last year where the critic wrote a manifesto. In the margin, you write the value underneath, the upgrade you offer and the date now. Value, excellence. Upgrade fence and dial, date today, your chest warms, not fireworks, radiator heat, steady and usable. Climb into bed, sheets cool against shins, pillow cradles the neck with that soft give that never gets old. The critic rattles the doorknob half-heartedly, don't slip. You answer with the identity sentence that has become a way your muscles hold you. You are the awareness, not the emotion. Tonight, add the artisan's claws, and you build frames that let awareness steer. Your breath slides down and back like a tide. Somewhere a car door thunks, somewhere a cupboard clicks shut. Inside, new defaults settle. Tomorrow you'll put up the focus fence before the weather moves in. You'll set the detachment dial to match the terrain. You'll drop breadcrumbs your RAS can't resist. You will speak like a coach who trusts you and expects work that respects your biology. And the critic, invited, bounded, retrained, will learn the dignity of being useful. The morning arrives with a subtle hum, like a refrigerator in another room. It would be easy to drift. The critic prefers drift because it can paste its commentary over blank space. You start by standing barefoot on the cool floor and install a protocol for beginnings that never again depend on mood, the startup script. It's 3 short lines you say before any meaningful block. Name the decision, name the first verb, name the value we'll protect. You open your document and whisper, decision, finalize the narrative spine, verb, sequence, value, clarity. You feel an almost comical shift, a centimeter of space in the chest where there wasn't any. Your tongue uncouples from the roof of your mouth. The keys under your fingers feel like objects again instead of a jury. You begin. Within minutes, the critic tries a lateral move. It doesn't attack you, it attacks the timeline. The voice is breezy in a way that worries you. This would be better if you had another week. You run a tool designed for seductive delays, the latency window. You define exactly how long a delay would improve quality and what you'll ship now if you don't get it. Latency would help in 2 places, examples and polish. If no window opens, ship the spine at 70% with 1 clean hook. As you say it, breath slides lower. The amygdala calms when a window is measured. You circle the hook line you like. Clarity builds trust because it puts the decision where eyes can see it, and you let the rest be scaffolding that can show. The room's temperature seems to drop by a degree. Maybe it's the same air, but your skin reads it as friend, not foe. You strengthen the floor by running the integrity index. Integrity isn't moral theater. It's whether your inner talk and outer moves line up. You rate 3 domains quietly: promise-keeping, truth-telling, repair speed. Numbers aren't shame, they're compass. Promise-keeping today feels like a 7, kept 2-time boxes yesterday. Truth-telling is an 8, named a constraint out loud to a teammate. Repair speed is a 5, you still owe your friend a clean apology for going quiet. The critic raises its eyebrows at the 5, eager to prosecute. The coach moves first. Schedule the call at 6:15, keep it under 5 minutes, deliver the standing repair. You put it on the calendar. A warm heaviness spreads through your forearms, like blood moving into neglected rooms. Your nervous system awards points for congruence without fireworks. The index turns identity from a mood into math. At the cafe, the barista mishears your order and you catch the old reflexive flash. You must have mumbled, you always mumble. You run the gap to gift reframe. The gap is the small failure. The gift is what it trains when met cleanly. Gap, unclear order. Gift, practice clear opening. You try the repair rail with a stranger. I think I wasn't clear. Could I get the black tea, no sugar? Their nod is instant. A citrusy steam rises from the cup. You feel it ghost across your knuckles as you lift it. Your jaw eases. The critic wanted to make a theology out of a moment. You made a moment out of a moment. Back at the desk, a colleague's comment arrives half-baked and sharp. Your shoulders inch toward your ears. The critic whispers, "Classic, this is why you do it yourself." You deploy the co-author clause, an agreement you pro-write for collaboration moments so the critic doesn't hijack the scene. Assume good intent, request missing piece, propose next tiny test. You type, "This is close. What I'm missing is the metric we're using to judge the intro, click-through, or time on page. If we pick one, I can test 2 openings by 4. Your tone stays low, your breath steady. You hear the faint scratch of your sleeve against the desk as you shift, the real world asserting itself. The reply is helpful, not defensive. The critic doesn't get to build a lone wolf myth when the coach keeps handing out pens. You will still meet your familiar freeze, the one that stalks you when you open the file with your name on it. You answer with the clarity sprint. Sprints are not about speed, they're about constraint that favors truth. You set a timer for 10 minutes, turn sound off, and write only what must be true for the outcome to land. In your case, decision first. Stakes named in a sentence. Example that feels like a room. The timer faces away. You feel the subtle weight of it on the table like a silent anchor. Halfway through, your breath catches, a flutter at the base of the throat. You let it be weather, exhale longer. Words arrive less like performance and more like inventory. When the timer dings, your shoulders are no longer holding the ceiling up. The sprint ends with a line you didn't expect. This is not about sounding smart. It's about making decisions easy for tired people. Tired people includes you. The line earns its keep today. A story to weld the tools to your bones. Hannah, a physician's assistant with a voice that went quiet in rooms with big egos, carried a critic trained by hierarchy. Before rounds, she tried the startup script in the stairwell where disinfectant hangs in the air like a paler version of mint. Decision, propose the step down. Verb, ask. Value, safety. On the floor, when a senior doc dismissed a concern with a wave, heat punched Hannah's sternum. She ran the gentle interrupt cadence she'd rehearsed in half-whispers walking her dog at night. Jumping in so we can land safety, can we check vitals trend before discharge? The gentleness carried more authority than force ever did. The team paused, they checked, they waited. Later in the medication room, Hannah leaned her head against the cool cabinet and noticed her hands were steady. Her critic hadn't dissolved, it had lost jurisdiction. The coach had earned hospital privileges. Afternoon approaches like a slightly tilted hallway. Your energy and patience both lean. The critic suggests a familiar compromise. Open 5 tabs to feel productive. You answer with the single thread rule, 1 thread at a time until a handoff is visible. Save, send, schedule. You say it out loud, quietly, as if narrating to a child you care for. Single thread, sequence the spine, write the first paragraph, schedule, polish. As you work, you catch the old urge to check messages, feel the spark in your fingers. You rub thumb and forefinger together and use a texture cue to keep attention local. The ridges of your skin meet and drag with faint friction. Sensory tether prevents cognitive drift. 5 minutes later, the first paragraph exists in the world, less shiny than your critic wants, more honest than your fear expected. You ship a check-in. The tiny outward motion breaks the trance that always lengthened suffering. You check your integrity index appointment and make the repair call you owed. The voice on the other end is kinder than your critic predicted. You say, "I went quiet yesterday and I see the impact. Next time I'll send a 1-line delay. Can we pick a new time?" Their yes is quick. Your throat expands like a hallway. This is why repair is a power tool, not because everything becomes soft and sweet, but because your body learns you can survive spectrum without playing hero or ghost. The critic, who prefers extremes, has fewer places to perch. Let's go to the lab inside your head where attention and emotion trade favors. You practice the 3-3-1 bridge, 3 breaths, 3 sentences, 1 action. Breath 1 through the nose, count 4, breath 2, hold 2, breath 3, exhale 6. Sentence 1, what the room needs. Sentence 2, what you can actually give. Sentence 3, what you'll ask. Action, start it. Your room needs decision, you can give sequence, you'll ask for a metric. You open the chat and type. The bridge feels almost physical, like laying a plank across a gap. You can feel the weight shift from ankle to ankle as your nervous system believes the crossing. Someone you admire posts a win. You feel the warm sourness again, not as sharp as it used to be, but present. Rather than swallowing it or pretending not to care, you run the admiration alchemy. You separate signal from sting. Signal, you value impact and visibility. Sting, fear of being seen mid-build. You convert signal to a practice by naming 1 adjacent rep you can do in private. Record a 60-second voice memo explaining our core message like I'm talking to one tired person. You do it. Your voice sounds lower than you imagined, steadier. The audio file is small and unshareable by design. As you hit stop, your scalp prickles in a good way, like it does after stepping out into cold air. Admiration now funds practice, envy loses budget. Your afternoon errand turns the sidewalk into a teaching scene. A cyclist swerves, a dog barks, your shoulder jolts. The critic moves fast, people are reckless, you always have to watch everyone. That sentence sounds like hypervigilance wrapped in civic virtue. You answer with perimeter language. Name what's inside your control in 10 words or fewer with a verb. Stay right, scan ahead, pause at corners. As you walk, you feel the sole of your shoe compress and release, the tiny squeak where rubber meets grit. It's banal and perfect. The world narrows to navigable terrain. Your heart rate slows by a few beats. The critic can patrol the city. The coach walks the block. Back at your desk, you open the portfolio again and watch the spotlight try to swing toward your face. You slide it back to the work using the result mechanism meaning triangle you built yesterday and add one more angle, the aftermath line. The aftermath is how the room felt different because of the result. Reduced churn 3 points. Sequenced onboarding with 2 cues. Honored clarity. Aftermath. Customer support lines quieted. Reps sounded less harried. When you write less harried, your own breathing mirrors the phrase. Your body believes aftermaths, they are stories with air. An internal voice you haven't heard in a while knocks, a younger one, half sarcastic, half terrified. What if this is just self-soothing dressed up as systems? You don't debate. You run the 5-frame forgive. It moves quickly, regret, responsibility, repair, recommit, release. Regret, I regret years of whipping myself, it cost presence. Responsibility, I train that habit. Repair, I show up today with clarity and calls. Recommit, I'll keep 70% and ship. Release on the exhale, with shoulders actually dropping. Forgiveness isn't a vibe, it's a sequence your nervous system can feel. After release, you notice the way light cuts across the table as a bright trapezoid. The critic has less fuel when your past is allowed to be over. An email pings with a vague request to circle back. The phrase hits your spine like a dull spoon. You use the clarity ask you wrote on a card weeks ago. Happy to, what decision should we land in that time? The reply is concrete. Your calendar breathes easier. You smell a faint thread of coffee still lingering in the air and feel the beginnings of a headache back off by half as expectation becomes actionable. This is what the RAS wants to serve. Verbs tied to values, not anxieties with metaphors. A story tight and true. Jamal, a city planner with a gift for seeing patterns and a critic that called him slow, had a council meeting where time was short and tempers long. He stood near the water cooler and ran the startup script. Decision, adopt pilot. Verb, ask, value, stewardship. When a council member rolled eyes at the phrase pilot, Jamal ran 3 lights to yellow and asked, "Which risk would you most want the pilot to surface first?" The room ticked quieter. Later, walking to the train under a sky that smelled like iron and rain, he realized he hadn't performed competence, he had spoken stewardship. His critic was always wrong about slowness. He wasn't slow, he was thorough, and thorough has a tempo when it's coached. Evening arrives with that familiar edge, the one where you're tempted to review the whole day like a prosecutor with a laser pointer. You install the 2-shelf review. The top shelf is kept the craft. The lower shelf is learn the lesson. You never build a 3rd shelf for what a mess. Top, sequence the spine, asked for decision early. Lower, boundary needed earlier on the side request. You feel your throat widen, your shoulders let go a notch. The critic wants 10 shelves and red string. The coach runs a tidy pantry. You promised earlier to call your friend at 6:15 and you keep it. The call is quick. You say the repair clean. You hear the smile on the other end before they speak. When you hang up, your hand rests on the phone 5 seconds longer than necessary. Your palm warms the case warms back. It's not sentimental, it's mammalian. You just trained relational trust into your nervous system with a 4-step script. That becomes your evening's quiet pride, a pressure behind the eyes that isn't tears, just a soft fullness. There is one more device you'll add before the day ends, the steward shift. The critic was a saboteur for years, but its raw energy, attention, pattern spotting, standard setting is valuable when stewarded. You give it a post. Scan only for misaligned values, not personal defects. Report in headlines at 5 p.m. to the coach. At 5, you pause, breathe once, and listen. The critic delivers 3 headlines without adjectives. Promise drifted on side task. Boundary held with friend. Repair paid off. You say, noted. Actions tomorrow, fence earlier, same boundary, pre-schedule repair checks. The critic is startled by being treated like a colleague. That startle is the feeling of usefulness replacing theater. You can almost hear your inner boardroom rearrange its chairs. Night, the city thins to sounds you can count. A bus brake exhaling, a neighbor's cupboard, a stray laugh on the sidewalk. You pull your archive and perform a small ceremony of continuity. You find a page where you once wrote in a tight, frustrated hand, "I make things harder than they need to be." In the margin you write, then, protection by over-control. Now, protection by clarity and pace. You date it. You put the page down. The paper's roughness lingers on your fingertips. That tactile echo tells the hippocampus this mattered. The change is not a TED talk. It's a stack of receipts. Before bed, you step into the green room protocol for tomorrow for 60 seconds. Wardrobe, opening line, pivot, close, breath, 5 cycles, slower on the exhale each time. Mark, say the opening once with your real voice, not your stage voice. We'll decide early, we'll keep the craft, we'll repair fast. The words are unadorned and good in the mouth. You turn off the light. The room cools against your cheeks. Sheets whisper as you roll to your side. The critic tries a last line, something like, "Don't let this get to your head." You smile, an actual smile that tugs your cheeks and creases the skin beside your nose. "It's not my head," you whisper, "it's my habits." Then you fold the day with the identity that has become a posture in your bones. You are the awareness, not the emotion. And because you have trained it into muscle, you add the coach's quiet order that keeps the compass true, and you speak in verbs that honor values, even when tired. The room settles. Right ear on pillow, you hear your breath like a far-off tide. Left hand on belly, you feel the rise and fall. Tomorrow will bring noise and weather and the occasional storm. Good. You have a startup script for beginnings, a latency window for seductive delays, an integrity index to keep your word, a clarity sprint for the wobbles, a steward shift for the critic's raw voltage. You won't perform perfection. You will practice direction. You will feel the small temperature changes, the cool on your forearms when clarity returns, the warmth across your back when repair lands, the easing at the jaw when decision leads. That is the texture of a coached life. It doesn't sound heroic from the outside. From the inside, it sounds like your own voice, finally on your side. You wake a little earlier than planned, the room charcoal blue and quiet enough that you can hear the building breathe, pipes tick, a neighbor's kettle hums like a distant hive. The critic is waiting, but not on the edge of the bed. It lingers by the door, cautious, as if it now knows this room isn't a courtroom. You stand barefoot on the cool floor and run the startup script without ceremony. Decision, finalize the spine and ship. Verb, sequence. Value, clarity. The words feel like placing 3 stones in a stream to cross without wetting your shoes. You pour water, steam curls your face, and you speak the one-line North Star you wrote last night in your own hand. Decide early, honor craft. Your shoulders slide down a notch. You can smell the faint mineral in the mug and feel heat pooling into your palms. Weather moves through. You are the one placing markers. There's a meeting later that used to own your nervous system. End-of-cycle review with the person whose questions tilt sharp when their calendar is tight. The critic whispers a remix of ancient sentences, don't be too much, don't be caught short, and you feel a light cinch under the ribs, a belt pulled by a cautious hand. You walk to the window and widen your field of view, tracing 3 corners, the window top, the door frame, the lamp base, until the world regains depth. Then you set the detachment dial at 6, outcomes matter, process leads. You build the 3-box frame on a sticky. Decision, approve story first opening. Data, bounce rate in first 30 seconds, AB last quarter. Door, 24-hour test if pushback. The marker squeaks softly, the sound calms you. You run the green room protocol in 2 minutes, wardrobe, breath, mark, until your voice has weight without force. This is not a performance. It's a rehearsal for the nervous system you want to bring into rooms. Before the day sprints, you make the repair call you owe. Standing, not pacing, you perform the standing repair you promised your integrity index. I went quiet yesterday, the impact is you worried. Next time I'll send a 1-line delay. Can we try 10 a.m. Friday? The yes arrives warm. Heat leaves your cheeks. The back of your neck cools as if a window opened inside. You log the receipt in your confidence ledger. Repair kept, promise honored. The ledger isn't a trophy case, it's ballast. When the critic tries to turn one wobble into a weather system, you have weights on the right side of the boat. You return to the document. The cursor blinks like a pulse. The mind offers a shiny delay. 3 more examples would make this smarter, and you measure it with the latency window. 2 places, examples and polish would benefit, no window today. You pledge 70% and ship 1 visible improvement. You lock yourself in with OCN at the top of the page. Outcome, draft the closing. Constraint, 30 minutes, no research. Next, write 3 what changes in the room sentences. You run the 2-line lock-in, typing 2 ugly openers in 60 seconds to prevent drift. They aren't pretty, they are true. The A-B whisper follows by reflex. If this isn't brilliant, stop versus, finish the spine, clean 1 hook. Your body votes for the second with a longer exhale and a warm spread behind the sternum. You choose the sentence your blood can carry. Mid-morning, a message lands. Could we rethink the timeline? The critic surges, trying to dress rumination as diligence. You climb the emotional alchemy ladder, notice, name, normalize, nudge, notice, shallow breath, buzzing hands, name, anxious, normalize. Many people feel this when timelines wobble. Nudge, honor clarity, ask for the decision we need. You deploy the gentle interrupt with written cadence. Jumping in so we can land the decision. Are we choosing between freeze and slip? If so, I'll show cost of delay and two options by two. The reply is cleaner than your fear predicted. Your jaw releases. You can feel your tongue settle at the roof of your mouth without sticking. The room gains color again. The blue beside the window is actually 3 shades. A story arrives from the old world to test the new one. Years back, in a fluorescent conference room, you watched a manager's face close, like a window when you stumbled through an update. The critic wrote a rule: speak only when perfect. You've been quietly breaking that rule for chapters, but today you tear it from the wall. In the review, when the sharp question comes, why should we change the opening now? You run 3 lights to yellow and ask, which metric is non-negotiable this quarter, time to trust or raw throughput? The question buys oxygen. When they answer trust, you tap the decision box with your pen and present the 2 options. You can hear your own voice from the inside, not loud, low. Your larynx doesn't clamp. Your breath lands low in the belly where decisions live. The critic hates when rooms turn cooperative. It starves on collaboration. You don't gloat. You log the learning sentence through the micro-debrief before the elevator doors close. Intended, land story first. Happened, framed decision, asked metric, options accepted. Next, laid with metric earlier. The pen scratches. The elevator hums. Your nervous system stamps the moment as usable. At lunch, you catch your reflection in a cafe window, no filter, no pose, and the old micro-sneer tries a last cameo. Look at the lines. Time hasn't been kind. You soften your gaze and run the mirror move. Tilt your head like you'd listen to someone you love. Deliver 1 sentence built only of verb and value. Rest early to honor energy. The amygdala receives safety. Your jaw releases 2 millimeters. The tea's citrus steam halos your fingers. Later, that rest buys you margin in the hour where you typically sprint and spill. The afternoon brings the project you nearly abandoned, your portfolio page, a small museum of work that lives or dies on clarity. The critic tries to turn the spotlight to your face. You dim it with the result mechanism meaning triangle and add aftermath. Reduce churn by 3 points. Resequenced onboarding with 2 cues. Honored clarity. Aftermath. Support tickets fell. Reps sounded less harried. You speak the sentences out loud. The words feel like bricks you can stand on instead of fog you drown in. You plant RAS breadcrumbs, decision at the door handle, pace at first click, repair at water glass, and you hear yourself whisper them in the wild. The desk receives 2 fingertip taps after each. The reward pulse is silly. It works. The inside of your skull feels less like a static storm and more like an engine tuned to idle smooth. Then a small collapse. Late email, ambiguous tone, your name near a question mark. The critic lunges with a favorite blade. If you were truly competent, no one would doubt you. Heat floods your cheeks, ears go hot. You run the 5-breath field test without flourish. Body state, value what needs doing, decide the sentence, send it. Thanks for the flag, decision to land, opening frame. I'll send 2 options with cost of delay by 4:30. You feel heat exit your ears as if a window opened in your skull. You scan the room, the door frame, the lamp base, the edge of a book, and your visual field widens, hauling cognition with it. When the timer ends and the options leave your outbox, the sense of agency returns like a jacket you forgot you owned. You step into relationship because your inner voice earns its badge there. A partner's text lands with 3 ellipses and a line about feeling far. The critic readies a defense clothed as logic. You run the 2-beat repair, body bridge, hand to chest, 1 slow exhale. I want us on the same side, outcome is closeness, constraint is my bandwidth tonight, can we do 10 minutes on Sunday morning to plan time this week? The reply arrives with relief. You're not dodging, you're designing. Your shoulders live an inch lower for an hour. The critic's drama loses jurisdiction when you speak in verbs that honor both of you. Because endings are where old habits try to sneak back in, you build the golden 20 with care. You strike the boundary bell, I'm ending well right now. You write 3 receipts, led with decision, dimmed spotlight to work, repaired quick. You lay the bridge, first sentence, first object for tomorrow, open with the cost of delay frame, sticky on keyboard, pen centered. Then you perform the steward shift, invite the critic to deliver 3 headlines to the coach. It does, almost shy. Scope wobbled at 11, decision led by question, repair strengthened trust. You say, good, actions, name metric sooner, same cadence, schedule repair check-ins weekly. The inner boardroom rearranges again. The critic sits near the door where it can watch the hallway. It looks, for the first time, relieved. The story you need before the lights go down belongs to someone else, and to be honest, to you years ago. A designer named Ren, whose gift was shaping chaos into signals, entered a final pitch with a reel of old humiliations trying to run. In the stairwell, threadbare carpet, cleaning solution in the air, they ran the startup script and the green room protocol in 70 seconds. Decision, land story first. Verb, ask. Value, clarity. They set the detachment dial at 7 and stuck the 3 box on a notebook. In the room, when a senior exec said, "Convince me," the critic tried to call red. Ren ran 3 lights to yellow and asked, which risk should the story surface first, trust or timing? The exec blinked, named trust. Ren told a 40-second story where a tired person could make an easy decision, then offered 2 options. Approval. Later, in the elevator, Ren felt their own breath like a tide instead of a siren. The rule from years ago, speak only when perfect, looked small and brittle in the corner of the room. It snapped without a sound. Your nervous system understands this story more than any pep talk. It's a blueprint, question, frame, option, breath. Night finds you with the archive again. You pull a page where you once wrote, "I make things harder than they need to be," and you mark the margin with the margin mirror. Then, protection by over-control. Now, protection by clarity and pace. You write the date and add a quiet line, "Kept the craft." The letters look like yours, but steadier. You feel the paper's tooth on your fingertips. The hippocampus takes the hint, store this. Then you sit on the edge of the bed, edge of pillow, edge of day, and run the edge of pillow ritual. 3 receipts, 1 thing you started in first gear, 1 boundary you kept, 1 repair you made, 2 ugly lines and kept moving. 2 hours Saturday only, called at 6:15. You whisper the whisper forward, decide early, dial at 6, fence up. The room cools your cheeks. The sheet is soft but not slick against your shins. Somewhere below, a cabinet closes. Somewhere outside, a scooter drones and fades. You end with the sentence that became a posture. You are the awareness, not the emotion. Then you add the coach's clause you can finally say without pretending. And you speak to yourself like someone you're responsible for. Your breath responds before the words finish. Longer exhale, shoulders heavy, ribs descending like a gate sliding into safe. This is the quiet victory you came for, not a louder mind, a kinder operating system. If tomorrow you wake to weather, and you will not audition for worth. You will pull frames from your toolkit like you pull mugs from a cabinet. Focus, fence, OCN, detachment dial, 3 lights, gentle interrupt, language ladder, cut, RAS tuner, coach cadence, compass calendar, critic contract, confidence ledger, recovery contract, green room, window widen, 90-second weather, 10-word tether. You will speak in verbs that aim attention and protect values. You will rehearse when it's small so you can perform when it's hot. And the critic, once a tyrant, now a steward, will report in headlines while the coach builds a life you recognize from the inside. Deliberate, breathable, worthy because you're living it. Sleep comes like a tide that's been waiting for the moon. It rises, cool and sure. The house settles around you. The day folds itself neatly. There will be other days with rough edges and sharp questions. Good, you have a voice now that doesn't flinch when it matters. Not because you never feel fear, but because you learn to place a hand on your chest, breathe, and say the next right verb. You learn to treat yourself like someone you're in charge of protecting. This is not about winning every room. It's about bringing the same steady self to every room, including the one inside your ribs. The coach will meet you at the door tomorrow. The critic will wait in the hall. You will smile at both and choose who speaks first.